Absolutely. It was so nice to watch these guys just duke it out in day number 1. Once again, one of the first times we're watching like a 2-day competition flesh out. And so far, there's so much to expect on this next day.
I can't top Shio's physical excitement. I'm not a mime, but unfortunately, I am extremely excited as well. Extremely excited. 2 days is something new. Obviously, we've only really seen it over the FNCS Invitational, splitting these 2 days across. So I'm very, very excited to see how these trios kind of play out. Are they going to be as consistent as they were on day 1? Are some teams going to drop off? Or they're going to see some teams that kind of just jump to the top leaderboards? Very, very excited to see it.
Yeah, man, they've had this nice reset to just kind of take everything back, watch the VODs, review what they need to do to try and place in that top 15 to push on through to Heats. Now, guys, of course, we know what you want. You want some games, so we'll get there in just a moment. First, let's talk about the broadcast itself. Don't forget, we're here watching the games in E. We've got 6 left today in week number 1. We'll be back after an hour to catch up on NA East, where we have 6 more games there. Let's talk about the tournament format. So this, much like Reese mentioned, is something we've kind of seen before. We've had 2 rounds before this, and now we are tuning into round number 3. We've had 6 matches yesterday, 6 today, and the top 15 trios will move on to Heats. Now, Heats, we've got 6 matches over the course of 2 sessions, where only the top 8 can advance. And Shy, we've got that special wild card match as well.
Tossing a little bit of spice into the mix. That wildcard match, there's only 32 slots that fill up the grand finals. So for that last slot, the 9th to 16th place teams from each heat get to play it out, and the winner from one match will advance. It'll be insane. I'm so hyped to see it. But for today, we're focusing on that top 15 cumulative over the last 2 days in round number 3.
That's right. Now moving on along, let's not forget we do have to talk about the point format. So this is a little bit different that we are used to seeing. It's pretty heavily favored on high placement. We do have the Victory Royale being worth 25 points and a single point for the 17th placing team, with every elim also being worth the point. Reese, we're seeing a lot of these teams come out of yesterday placing top 5 and above. They're up there in the standings because they're looking to try and aim for that Victory Royale that's worth the most points.
A typical endgame playstyle is exactly what we're kind of seeing right now. Players just playing for placement, not really engaging in the early and mid game. And a lot of these really consistent teams that we've seen haven't had the huge amount of eliminations, definitely favoring placement more. Apart from Kezix's team, who in game 1 had 17 eliminations. So not even one team is anywhere close to getting equal elimination points when they get the Victory Royale.
My, oh my. Now, of course, guys, you know what they're playing for. We've got prize money on the line for each and every region. Right now, don't forget, we're in Europe, so there is a prize breakdown as a whole. You do love to see it. Not bad for a couple hours of Fortnite. Now, guys, of course, there's a lot that kind of did happen. So there's a lot of things I want to talk about today specifically, right? We see a lot of these teams, they're just, it feels like they're so far and away with these points. How do we feel like these players that have had this time to reset, how should they be looking to impact the standings today?
Well, when it comes to just like playing a 2-day format, you want to actually, and you have the first opportunity to look like how you're playing right now over 6 games. You know, when you adjusted, was it the right adjustment? Was it an early game drop you tried to switch up, or was it a way you played end game? Maybe today you want to do the opposite. At the same time, you get to restart your introduction to a 6-game format again, having the knowledge from yesterday. So I want to see how teams switch that up towards the bottom side, trying to hit top 15, and teams who were trying to win the day overall and didn't get to do that, get to now just like, you know, take it back a little bit and work for top 15 as that mark. So I want to see how teams adjust to that.
And if I was one of those teams that was at the bottom, I would definitely be trying to reevaluate my strategy. I'd be looking at the map, seeing if there's anyone around there who's being uncontested, or maybe a lower placing team that you could also try and contest them. It might be a little bit way that you can get more loot, get further in the mid and end game at that point. If you're already at the top, you might want to be looking at some of these other players who are also at the bottom and thinking, what is their strategy? Are they going to be rotating in through me? Are these guys going to change up their plans? Who's dropping around me? There's still a lot. We've already had a ton of data from day 1, and if you're not utilizing that data in day 2, I think you're missing out.
Man, and speaking about that data, there's like this kind of big point that we were looking at and thinking, okay, this seems to be an issue, is this contested versus uncontested. We've seen a lot of these teams that are hitting these drop spots uncontested find themselves higher and higher up in the leaderboards. And we'll be touching on this in just a moment. But first, let's actually take a look back at some of the other regions that have wrapped up. We have OCE and Asia to take a look at. Now, something to note here, we do have the cumulative points, but the elims and the victory royales are from today specifically. So we do have Jinx, Alec, and Worthy taking home that #1 spot. Now, it is the top 8 that will advance, but still, 256 points. I mean, Shai, you know they're feeling good.
They are. I mean, Reese, break it down for me. Why is it so important that Jinx, out of all people, is in first place?
Jinx is a 2-time FNCS champion from solos and also from duos. So he's very, very much so proven himself in these kind of formats. Alec and Worthy are also fantastic players. Some people would say Worthy is one of the best fraggers in their region, and he plays on around 50 ping, which is actually pretty insane. So Jinx and his trio may be able to pick up a 3-time FNCS championship, which is the first on any single region.
Nice. Yeah, past that too, from 3rd to 5th. These guys are all qualified. Not kind of the top echelon of players that will be moving forward. In Oceania, though, you have to remember that 8th place is actually what qualifies. Oatly, Cork, Osiris. These guys had some of the lowest elimination totals of day number 2, so they were playing very placement heavy. That is actually very good in my eyes, because when you go towards heats, you go towards grand finals, it's a lot tougher to get those eliminations down. They're already playing with that playstyle, so we'll see how these guys scoot all the way in. Overall, 145 points, 4 points over 9th place over there from Wicked, Suns, and Lunar. So we'll see if these patterns continue. Qualifying early means so much too. In Asia, similar story for first place, Reese.
All right, and QJack, again, another FNCS champion, all the way back from the FNCS Invitational. And something I should note is that Fram, who was the solo FNCS winner, and Ziller, I think his name is pronounced, was the FNCS champion for duos. Neither of these people qualified for the day, so QJack is one of the only players who actually has the shot at qualifying for another title in the heats so far.
Absolutely. Past that to 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. You can see how close their competition was comparatively to QJack and their trio all the way up top. Also very interesting, I think you mentioned it too, Victory Royales, none from day 2 from QJack's perspective, and second on day 1 was also very impressive. So looking at those patterns going into the heats and grand finals, a trio to put your money on. From 8th place, once again in Asia, that is the qualifying cutoff there. Rizart and his trio get to qual 138 points, 5 ahead of Teak, Rex, and Taco. They had 21 elims. Once again, another trio you want to be focusing on in terms of playing a little bit more placement overall. I also want to shout out Lettuce and his trio. These guys were looking so good on day number 1. Almost got there. Remember, if you're not qualified, those series points will also add up. So playing very well week to week is something to look out for.
Yeah, they have to keep pushing that bar, right? Even if they don't necessarily make it in through week number 1, we have 2 more weeks of competition after this. And like you're saying, series points, and there's that even special wild card match. So there's a lot of action to be keeping track of over the next several weeks leading into grand finals. But that's why you've got us. Now, guys, what we should do is talk about some of the actions we saw yesterday, right? Who were these trios that were fighting the victory royales?
Game 1, we have Kezix, Nate, and 4ZR. My personal pick for the region, if anyone remembers, historic moment choosing them. And you can see Nate actually goes into the zone right here. He has floppers and he has splashes. His teammate have given him all of the heals, and he just wins the heal off just because of that.
Yeah, also past game number 1, even though they didn't win, even though Height didn't win this specific game, they held on dominantly for the next 4 games. Over here, though, I know we called out a little bit, maybe Height was very important. Because of that, there were 2 teams fighting up there. I think it was Become Legends versus Lanoof. And while that was going down, ADN, Amplify, and Matzo controlled low. ADN had some sick aerial harpoon combination shots. My lord, what a finish there from game number 2. And it was so hard to top for game number 3. It happened, though.
Mongrel's team also took the victory in game 3. I can't say they did it in as good style as ADN, with probably putting him in the Taj for that victory, 100%. But they managed to claim the high ground, and you can see this is something that we'll always see from these guys. Just dominant, consistent pressure, and great spacing. Notice how close together they are right here. Both simultaneously ramping up at the same time and picking up an elimination from it. Dropping down to the low ground because there's 3 players left. They're just continually pressuring, picking up a beautiful shot for that victory royale.
Yeah, all 3 players surviving is very, very difficult towards the end of the game. The next one was the same thing with Vettel, Stir6, and iDrop, surviving and then going for an all-out 3v3 brawl, winning it with not even 1 player going down.
And in Game 5, Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD taking height. And you can see it's only Thomas HD left alive. The solo on high ground. We watched this on the broadcast. You can see the player below only has 20 effective HP and is going through all those old builds. So that single shockwave getting him on height is making a fantastic one.
Yeah, past that too. That very last game that's been coming in, it was Nakozor who was actually moving forward box to box. A little bit more difficult of a win to pull out, but he got together with his team. Floki was already down. It was also somewhat of a middle to high elimination type game, but these guys pushed it straight forward. A little bit more of a slow burn. Got towards height. There were more brawls around every other person, but because the way natural low ground was actually developing out, they got to cut everyone off as they were trying to move up the hill. Nakozor drops down, gets a nice pump. It's all about positioning in those moments, and they had it before everyone else.
So sick. And that was only the first 6 games. We have another 6 games to play right here, right now. Now let's go ahead and remind ourselves of what the standings did look like. Because remember, these are cumulative points, right? We're going to have the games from yesterday lead us into the games today. And there are some trios, one in particular that is far and away running with triple digits. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous. This is not something I think anyone expected, but Vettel, iDrop, and Stursix, after their game, they just went off. They were like, hey guys, we want to just break triple digits.
They completely popped off. Completely. 21 points ahead of second place, which is a really, really big lead for first. In the warm-up cup, we did see that Mongrel's team was around 50 points ahead at this exactly same point, and it even managed to become a really close game at the end of day 2. So, just because they're ahead now doesn't mean that one of these other teams that are in the top 5 can't catch up. Anyone here has the potential to take that first place slot.
Absolutely, but the issue was, comparatively to everyone else, these guys were firing up towards the end of the 6 games. People like Kazix, 4-0, and Nate, yeah, I know, Reese, you're hyped up about them, but after game 3 or 4, they started teetering off a bit, right? After the win that iDrop, Stursix, and Vettel got, these guys were just staying on top, 2nd place, 5th place. They were nice. Past that, though, you also have to remember on Europe, there was no individual team that had multiple victory royales, so all the VRs were spread apart. Getting one is so important. Thomas, Anas, and Flick got one. Amplify, Adian, and Matzo, as we just showed you. In this region as well, it's top 15, so everyone here in the top 10 is a little bit ahead of the competition. These guys are the ones you have to kind of watch out for, slightly being contested. What's the story with Mongrel's trio there, Reese?
Mongrel's trio landed game 1 uncontested at Stark Industries, and it was looking to be a really, really good day for them, and then instantly they were contested by Jaspay's team. Now, they're clearly doing very, very well, still placing 11th at this point, but people were expecting them to go kind of up into that 1st to 5th position zone, so a little bit further behind where they wanted, but still a really, really good performance so far, and they can really continue this into day 2 as well.
That's what it's all about, man. Making it happen right here, right now. Being able to qualify in the initial 15 would be awesome, right? Because then you don't really have to worry as much for the next few weeks, and you can just focus on refining your trio. We'll have to see if they can do that. Now, guys, yesterday we started with some predictions, right? We had our 2 analysts here and our casters make some predictions. Which trios did they think would walk away that number 1 team here in week number 1? So, Shai, why don't you kick us off with your prediction?
Listen, I knew coming into it that Benji, Savage, and Lechi would be contested off of spawn. Usually that team doesn't end up winning, but I pinned it that maybe they would, get a little bit better of that 50-50 trade, maybe win more often, and then use those extra eliminations to push towards first. That might not happen now, but I feel like they'll still qualify in the top 15.
Moving on, we had Sancho West, who went with Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD. Now, do keep in mind, these guys right now are in 6th place. They have 82 points. So technically, Sancho's in 2nd, but we'll get to who's in 1st in just a moment. Sundown went with Noah Riley, 200 only, who is Aqua, and Rezon. Now, these guys are on the bubble. They're in 19th place with only 36 points. We do see the top 15 being that 45-point bubble right now. But again, we have another 6 games today. Reese, round us out with your predictions.
I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. We saved the best for last. We saved the best for last. Kedzix, 4ZR, and Nate popped off game 1 yesterday with 17 eliminations. Highest out of any region. No other region has had higher than 17 eliminations, and they've done it on potentially the most difficult and most stacked region. And in all honesty, I think they're going to continue that consistency all the way through today.
Shai, thoughts?
No shot. No shot at all. I disagree. I just feel like they peaked yesterday. Maybe they get contested. Maybe it happens again. I usually get, countered by game one with how the players play. So maybe I'm helping them right now. Maybe I'm giving you a bone, Reese, making your first experience here nice and luxurious. But yeah, seriously, they're a very good trio. They deserve to have first if there is anyone else because of the way they played the first 3 games. I just hope today they have enough fuel in the tank to take all 6.
And I will add to that. All of the people that they've ticked have been fantastic. Any of these players could come in the top.
There you go. Reese trying to be a good guy, taking the high road. I like it. Now, Fortnite fam, you know what time it is. It's time to hop into the game. So let's send it over to Sancho West and Sundown to take us into the first game on the day.
Thank you so much, Zeke, Reese, and Shio. It is going to be an unbelievable day 2. Day 1 was already filled with so many highlights. The Twitterverse was popping off. But again, Sundown, what are you expecting to see in day 2 today?
Well, what I'm expecting and hoping to see is somebody take charge and really push forward and seize the opportunity. Because the way I look at this, particularly compared to every other region, the top is really kind of dense. And any team who's realistically in the top 10 right now has an opportunity. If they're able to string together back-to-back a victory royale and then a top 2 performance, they could really push forward. As we see that first zone is pulling very far south. Probably the most southern zone we've seen out of the 7 games so far. I think one of the big things I want to talk about today, outside of those initial drop spots and whether anything changes, is just how much of a difference placing first and second compared to everything else is. We look at the format and notice it's very placement heavy. Well, 9 of those points are allocated into second and first, with a +4 difference going between third and second, and then a +5 from second to first. So clutching up at the end really ends up making a huge difference, and we can see it here, just like in the Duos World Cup, where those last 3 games ended up meaning a lot. There's an opportunity in this back half of the 6 games for a team to really charge up the leaderboard as we jump on over to Doom's Domain off of the start.
Yes, the battle for Doom's Domain has been awesome, but now there is another battle that has been developing. It is the battle for Stark's Industry POI. Already, Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson were all of a sudden, mid-day 1 almost, maybe like game 2 or 3, started to get contested by Jaspe, Lenouf, and Moraine, who is from the DreamHack Anaheim champion. So Gamma's Moraine has kind of threw a wrench in Mongrel's plan, and actually in games 4, 5, and 6, Mongrel's team went down to Jaspe's team, and that was a huge shakeup. But also, Sundown, I gotta point out that the power of this POI shows that despite the 50-50s and despite getting eliminated, they still came in 11th after day 1.
And you can see Mongrel actually had an elimination there, only 1 going through, so it looks like they might have been able to force somebody off right away, but now going to flip on over. Here's a fight going on outside Coral Cove. Mythic had it uncontested yesterday, which means somebody else is now dropping over here and hanging out with them. You can see Mido trying to put some shots there. They already have 1 player kind of isolated out over in the water, but some shots coming through now as a high ground take comes through. That was the crash pad getting up and above. It's going to be a little bit difficult. Fighting with a charge from the low ground isn't necessarily the best position. Generally, you want to be either up and on the side, and Tony taking a lot of damage there. The burst coming through, but the charge just showing how strong it can be if you disrespect it in those close box-to-box and those initial fight situations. If you don't have the effective 100 shields and 100 HP going through, a charge shotgun more often than not, if you get within a box, even if it doesn't headshot you, it can take out the entirety of your health pool. So despite being on 18 HP right there, Tony turns that fight around and forces this other team out and away. And Praga, who had a tough day yesterday trying to find an uncontested drop spot, instead is going to run into Mythic, Mido, and Tony and be forced out.
Now, we're going to go ahead and take a look at a replay that, and, all the actions happening throughout the entire Fortnite island, and we're going to do our best to keep it up here on the FNCS broadcast. So let's take a look at the chaos here at the Slurp Factory. And it is a battle, what we've been seeing all in day 1 of Kiriachi, Rotary, and Stormy Wright able to capitalize and take over. Now, throughout the entire day in day 1, they had very inconsistent rotations, always getting contested along the way. And if you took like a heat map and take a look how everything kind of shakes out, Sundown, you see on those rotations, those diagonal paths in between POIs, having a lot of little skirmishes and kind of rattling off here and there in the distance. Yes, the initial drops are always going to be hot and heavy with all those kinds of battles happening and all those gesturing for the alphas and POIs. But it's the in-between game that we saw, especially in Weeping Woods. Remember, we saw a lot of our top teams falling down, but it looks like an ambush play is developing right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, you can see there, Savage, Lecce, and Benji set up in the bush, waiting for Joel. 40-20, trying to pass through right now, deciding when they're going to 1-2-3. Odds are good. It'll be once they're in close enough range. You can see the players heading towards the rift. They'll get plenty of shots going on the first one. A couple 33 tags coming through, but not quite any broken armor yet. The question is, can they close the gap before the opponents are able to retreat? And they will be able to get in there, close it off right there. Gets the first one. Fort Venti going down there. Joel being converted on, so good job closing out that fight, and a good little refresher on loot. Day, however, is going to get a knock on Lecce, so might not get out of this scot-free. Benji, ooh, that got real close for a second there, getting knocked down to just below 40 HP, but the two siphons ended up coming out, and they will be able to stick. No, it looks like he actually, he ticked over to the storm, so they're going to have to find a reboot on their way through. So a good trade, but not necessarily ideal, because they're not going to be able to carry all of the materials they really need to get over to Lecce. I mean, they will have that rift to utilize and get out of there, but I mean, outside of that, they're going to have to take the time to reboot, and the map's shrinking at this point.
The map is shrinking, and you're seeing a lot of battles between the bottom of the board to mid of the pack. Visitor and 420 and Joel were in 31st place. Previously, as we saw Prago going down with Giannis in 33rd place. So all this is kind of happening. And 4ZR's trio that we're watching right now holds the single game record for 42 points and elims. So this is a team that's been staying hot, and Reese's pick is really doing well. Again, they were holding down the first place about first to fifth games, and all of a sudden they lost it at the very end. Now the question is, that mentality break, that halftime break that we have here between day one and day two, does this team maintain the momentum that is so important and so vital to have? To echo Monster D-Face, you gotta show out in 4 out of the 6 games, and already in game 1, we're already seeing some little minute changes in game plan, Sundown.
Yeah, minute changes in game plan, but it doesn't look like minute changes in swagger, as these guys are pretty confident on the rotates yesterday, and now as they're going through the woods, generally we've talked about the predators who can lurk in there. That's where Wolverine has been spawning, the nice little new addition. Don't forget those powers are not in the competitive game, but they're just straight blaring the horns and running up right into a fight. They're going to take on Dennis and Kitty over on the side, trying to get some rifle engagements, but they're not afraid to kind of utilize these cars to try and pick off somebody really quickly. We saw them pick off a number of players yesterday, getting free eliminations and just free refreshes on their mats. That's one thing I've actually noticed particularly about this trio. They don't generally prioritize getting maximum mats off of the start. It's more getting center, getting the rotation, making sure they have a little bit of space occupied for themselves. Then if they're able to ambush somebody, they'll get their mats from there, or they'll focus on farming and utilizing the car to move from high-valued resource to high-valued resource. And right now you can see Clement's trio had 5 games where they finished with 5+ eliminations, which in trios is really impressive, honestly. That means over the course of a game, on average, you're taking out basically 2 full teams, which at this level, we talk about kind of the 0.01% and just how good Europe really is. To be able to win 2 fights consistently is, like I said, impressive. But you can see all of these builds just acting as a scarecrow, trying to cover the rift. The French trio will take it and then begin their rotation towards center zone.
And you got to give that credit to their drop, having a very contested, and that is actually who is there in Misty Meadows. It is this squad, the Mia Tifos, were there at Misty Meadows, and they were contesting Clement's squad every single game in 1 through 6 and day 1. And winning those early contestants will very much get you those 5+ elims, and at the same time, those very valuable Storm Surge tags. And that is another piece of the pie they have to solve. Yes, you got to get mats. Yes, you got to get power weapons. But also, you got to find the value and putting out that damage output to avoid that deadly Storm Surge Sundown.
Yeah, they want to stay away from that. You can see the pinch coming in. The Miatifos being pinched by the Grizzy duo, plus Kezix over up at the top representing Rams. However, the Russian trio trying to get a piece of that action there, and you can see Nate and Kezek just continuing to rain down Firestorm. We're trying to get a piece of the action like we talked about. Getting around the opposite side, wants to control and funnel this player back into the fire of the Grizzly players. He'll catch a nice 200 pump as he's able to get the stare there. Also gets the 200 on the ground, so maximizing the Storm Surge damage. We have seen a significant number of players already go down. 19 have fallen, 5 full trios already out of the picture. So a good job pressuring so far there from the European teams, really kind of stamping their claim on a lot of these drop spots and starting the day off strong. And that's what it's really about, particularly as you come into day 2. You want to get rolling in those first couple matches. We've seen just how important it can be.
Yeah, the halftime point between day 1 and day 2, it's a chance to catch your breath, to reevaluate your game plan, to get the team refocused and reposition yourself mentally, emotionally, and definitely physically. And I mean, we saw players, with a nice pickup by Nate right there, kind of closing out the door on Mia Tifios, but we'll see how that happens. And you see them already, Sundown, 461 damage above the Storm Surge line. But my point is I was saying is, like, we saw, especially in the NA East as well, is sometimes these players, they didn't take any rest. They kept playing. I was watching Nick 830 continue playing solo arenas, and it's just kind of wild to me that, you would think some players of these would rest or trying to, VOD review, go into the replay client that everybody has access to and take a look at what these other teams do. But there's a lot of these competitors that just love to play the game.
They love to play the game. They love to get the results back. For most of them, it's about seeing the improvement, particularly as a trio, and getting through there and being able to kind of grind out and develop that chemistry, which is something we see particularly a lot more in Europe. You'll see a lot more standing trios, or if not trios, at least parts of trios, right? It's very rare you'll see 3 new players come together. It's generally a duo who has played for a while, or a trio who used to play together reforming, or little ones mix and matching. It's very rare that we see kind of those full-on team changes that encapsulate so many other regions. But one thing I want to talk about right now, Jasper, Moraine, and Leneuf rotating into the zone from the northwest side, which to me indicates that if they were the ones to drop and contest Stark right away, then they immediately disengaged, hit the rift, and went somewhere else to then get the reboot and rotate back around. Because if you're coming from Stark, you wouldn't be coming in that far away from the northwest side unless you were rotating through cars and they were on foot. So it looks like maybe a potential change in game plan. However, it's important to note that yesterday they didn't start off contesting at Stark either.
Yeah, exactly that. And I got to kind of echo that point that we saw Savage and Benji's squad kind of like really far up north as well. So we're seeing a lot of early disengagements into those power POIs of Doom's Domain. But now we got a power engagement happening right here. And this is going to be the first time in the EU region that we've seen a southern type Weeping Woods finish. But with some nice pressure from Nako, getting the beams right through and the spray and the bullets kind of bleed through the builds right there. Nakor and Floki and Clement are keeping on the pressure, and we saw their swagger that they were having taken. It wasn't as big of a swagger taking a whiplash, it was a coup, but still you're feeling the flow that they have, and that is why that stat of that 5E limbs, you're just seeing the confidence, and there is no kind of slowdown momentum for them. And there's one of those squads that are just easily able to get and bolt themselves into that top 5 situation here.
And right now we're going to swing back on over the other Doom's Domain team. So it looks like both teams opting not to take that fight off the spawn, instead just going to loot up. But Raison, Aqua, and Noah were the ones who will be leaving with that mythic bomb. Raison being the one holding it. Also has a legendary burst rifle, which I would say honestly getting either an epic or a legendary burst is so key for so many of these trios, because as the point you were referring to, getting those bullets to just kind of sneak in through those builds real quick when you're spraying through. The burst has that potential if all of a sudden 1 or 2 of those headshot bullets end up sneaking through, or even just a body, that's enough where if you catch a low health member, or it's enough where you're able to then pressure forward if you have a gas can with you, or in this case, if you have that Doom's mystical bomb, you're able to really kind of press forward onto opponents. And right now you can see them dead center in the zone, have plenty of time to be able to farm up and establish themselves. They're not going to be threatened for at least the next zone, probably the next 2 after that, so they won't have to worry about rotating away until we get to that half and half zone. So now they're just going to be sitting looking for tags, and we're going to swap away from them to somebody who's over on the edge of zone as that circle is just closing, and we can expect plenty of action to be going on as Akusto and Dezinho are trying to make a 2v3 happen here right on the edge.
Snipe, Day, and Akusa were kind of one of those teams that were on the bubble all day. They had a second place finish, went up against Steer 6 and his trio. They kind of fell. They had the high ground. They had the opportunity to capitalize. And like you mentioned, get those big major points of difference in placements from getting the victory royale. We're talking about 5 points missed out on opportunity and those elims. And they kind of had a 2v3 situation. They were sitting at height and they dropped on down. And bang, Days in with a big-time hit with that green pump, and he's going to definitely be looking for an upgrade. So look at that. Pay attention to that, ladies and gentlemen, at the people's loadouts as they go forward. You're going to want to see those purples and golds because having those greens and blues, yes, if your aim is true, you'll be able to put on some big damage, but still, you won't have that one pump potential.
Honestly, I would much rather have any rarity of a charged shotgun than a less than epic or legendary pump shotgun. And me as a personal player, I'm actually a huge advocate for the charged shotgun, or at least having one person running it in trios, particularly because when you get in these really close box-to-box situations, you're already going to have 2 people who have pumps and going. Having somebody who has kind of that 100 to 120 damage threat from 1 to 2 boxes away, you're able to sneak those shots in trios. You get those opportunities. It's not all the time, but they occur. A pump can't really take advantage of those, whereas if you have one person who's looking for those and able to catch somebody on the low ground or catch somebody trying to sneak around with low builds, you're able to get those massive knocks when you really probably feel like you shouldn't. But right now we're going to switch on over with Jachu, Advise, and Paco. They've been doing kind of a scavenger route between the Sentinels and the Ghost Hill, as well as the old Ghost base with Hero Hill there. One of, I think, the stronger and only really now viable scavenger routes with the chest pawn change. And you can see they're also able to hold on to 2 gas canisters. They're right on the edge, currently sitting on the low ground, but the Storm is going to force this team into them. However, they're just going to rotate away, utilizing their utility from the high ground and shooting across. You can see him trying to locate him there, and he finds it. Some great bullets sneaking in there, and that's exactly what I just talked about. His teammates spraying with the regular ARs, and then the burst rifle able to sneak through. Jamside being the low HP one, gets taken out. A little bit of help from the Become Legends trio, who is also lobby focusing them just above. Anas also on the other side is going to get a piece of that pie. And Jaspe is going to get a knock onto Be Hard Mod. So a lot of players going down there. There's the first gas can. It's a double gas can. Breaking it out instantly. Hellraiser gets raised himself in a brilliantly done play. That's why you use 2 item spots to set that up. They're trying to follow up with the second one right away. I apologize. That was just the one, but so well done here from Advise, Paco, and Jachu, Sancho.
Oh my goodness, the technique that is kind of blazing out of the Fortnite competitive community, we just saw that kind of develop. I remember seeing it posted on the Reddit competitive post, and everybody was like, oh my goodness, that's going to be a fire thing to do, and you seeing the explosive results. You can't prepare for that. There's no indication. It just comes out of nowhere, and before you know it, a big explosion happens. You're kind of like flabbergasted. You kind of knock back on your heels in that big knockout blow as Advise and Jachu and Paco, who had a great day in day 1, are starting off day 2 really strong here. But the question is, Sundown, how are they going to make this rotation? They have a lot of shockwaves into that, but we have seen the value of a shockwave, especially for a mongrel who was able to take height and a victory out with just 1 shockwave.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas was able to do the exact same thing as well. A well-timed shockwave at the end when everybody else has been forced to burn their utility or feels like they have to use their utility can often end up being the difference when you need to clutch up. And that change ends up being a 6-point play just if you're able to get the elimination and take the victory royale. But right now, Sammy's just worrying about the 1-point play. They're going to pick up Kirky. Amplify also getting the confirm over onto Snap. And honestly, Storm Surge not really going to be a problem here. At least one more player will fall over the course here. And it's Kezix actually getting the knock onto Aqua. Kuji gets Mona as well. Kezix knocking out Aqua there means that he will Storm Surge will turn off. However, Raison knocks Nate and then gets knocked himself as well. So lots of top teams going up against each other right now as we hop back on board here with Kuja, Dennis, and Sammy.
And we got one thing we got to note is squads that kind of land in this area of the map are going to have a strong advantage throughout the entire day. In day 1, they had to make those long rotations. So I'm expecting the Rotaries, the Stormy Right, that trio to do a very strong finish here. And maybe those inconsistencies could kind of be shelved just for a split moment to have a strong start here in day 2. And already you're seeing the difference here. Weeping Woods being a big factor. Anytime an in-game situation happens here, ladies and gentlemen, the sight lines are going to be limited. expected. So you're going to be expecting people to play for height. In a trios competition, players usually like to go for height in this beginning right here. And considering that Weeping Woods will be at play, not a lot of players are going to be able to see so clearly. So you could kind of hold on to it a little bit longer. And we have been seeing the low ground being a big factor in that Sundown.
Yeah, and don't forget, we are just now into the placement points coming through top 17, so one placement point has been going off as each trio falls. An additional point will be going through. And right now, Sammy trying to make the Become Legends trio fall, gets a good down onto 6, but Dennis ends up getting traded out as well. Lariz ends up going down on the opposite side of that to Mongrel. 6 ends up going down as well, so that's going to be the entirety of the Become Legends trio knocked out with only a single placement point going. No, they will still have one more member who is up right now. I apologize right there. Noah Riley gets ticked over, and his team is out at 17th, and now you can see the battle for higher ground. You hear the crash pads going out as all the utilities being used to try and gain control. There's that Russian trio you were talking about with Rotary and Stormy right on the mid-ground tarp, trying to get a battle for it, but we also have Mongrel, Tayson, and Mitro make it into their first endgame in a while with that Starks loot, and you can see they still have the shockwaves. And Tayson, that brilliant shot onto Nate on the high ground. That signals the go. Shockwave goes up 86 on the shield tag, and a brilliant pressure and execute. They're going to look to execute on the high ground now for the rest of the game, Sancho.
Unbelievable snipe from Tayson, and that is the solo champion. Can he go back-to-back? It'd be unbelievable to see a solo finish in a trio championship here, but that is going to be a story that we're going to watch the entire way as Tayson, Mongrel, and Mitro have the control of this entire lobby, and it's pushing right back up at high elevation. So everybody on the low ground, as you're seeing here, are going to be in danger. Mid-ground will all of a sudden turn into low ground, and the people at height are going to be vibing as they're going to send down the beams. But here we are at the low ground, in the muddle, in the mud. AD and Amplify Matzo, who got a victory royale previously, have been in this position before. This is where they got that victory royale. Ratting their way through, snaking their way through. This is an opportunity to show that everybody that day one was not a mistake, and they are a team. The Train Hard squad with ADN sending in beams, using the crash pad, finding anything opportunity. Yes, an elimination going through right there on Vato.
But that was not their knock, so no siphon, no points coming through. They will get the mats from that, which at this point might be the most important thing. But up on the high ground, we still have the control coming out from Tayson, Mitro, and Mongrel. However, we've talked about the other team who was initially contesting them, left them there this game. They were hip to hip right there, trying to sneak on the other side and find a layer for themselves. That's Jaspe, Leneuf, and Moraine. Leneuf under a lot of pressure right now. They're super low on builds, and you can tell the pressure is on for them. Leneuf ends up going down to Airwalks, the back-to-back Pro-Am champion. However, he will get traded back out by Jaspe. Leneuf is going to be left behind, and it's going to be a duo effort now for Moraine and Jaspe as we head into the final moments of match number 7 here. First on the day in EU.
It is zone 9, so it is closing time, ladies and gentlemen. The zone is going to constrict all the way to 0, and the storm will overtake everybody, and it's going to be so important to play your health as a big-time hit on Moraine. Moraine gets an elimination on Mex, so Moraine is cooking right now. The solo star getting another big hit, and you seeing the green pump not being too effective.
Oh, the siphon!
What amazing play! The siphon goes through. Sundown, Moraine is on fire right now and cooking.
He was so lucky. The unfortunate Shockwave sent him out, but he had it down before. I would have yelled pop a bandage if he had one, but instead the siphon ticked over, and now Moraine just living in that circumstance kept him in the lobby. They got at least an additional 3 points, and now Moraine got another knock, but he ends up getting ticked over. He got the top 5 though, so brilliant from there. In the top right, we have Mongo. In the bottom right, we have Rasco, who's on the low ground. We talked about Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson just running out from the high ground, and that's what they're going to do right now. It's a straight up 3v3. There's one knock on the ground, but we've talked about it. They are hip to hip. It is the Train H duo on the low ground. However, dropping down on top of it. No, it is not actually. It was Vettel, Stursix, and Co. on the low ground. So second place for them. Mongo, Mitro, Tayson with an uncontested Starks will start the day off with a victory royale. The first repeat coming out in match number 7. But whew, that was tight.
Wow, Mongo, Mitro, Tayson, no one picked them. Guys, we got to break that down. We did something wrong.
You know, I don't know that we necessarily did something wrong. They just said, hey, you forgot to mention us. Why did you sleep on us like that? Wow, Mongrel, Mitro, Tayson picking up the W here in the first game. And on top of that, they beat out the first place team from yesterday. iDrop, Stursix, and company. They placed second still, though. Second place. It's still 20 points.
That is such a good start because you always want to do better than the last game. So next game they have to be first. I mean, the standings will really show us exactly what that second place means, right, Zeke? Because like consistency matters the most.
That's right. And just a very quick note on the standings. The victory royale and the eliminations are actually incorrect. We do have a little bit of an error on our side, so sorry about that. But what we are looking at are these cumulative points on the right. So right now, though they got that second place, they're still super far ahead of everybody, right? We're talking a 32-point lead. But that victory out from Mongrel, Mitra, and Tayson, that's definitely going to be moving them up the leaderboards right now. I mean, Reese, this lead they have is a good start to the day. But can they hold on?
I think they might be able to. They've been playing very, very consistently. Already with the lead yesterday, and then coming in game 1 of today, technically game 7 overall, but already with a second place with a ton of eliminations. That is very, very impressive. And you see from the winner of that last game, Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson, now with two victory royales all together. How they won that was actually quite interesting because we saw Tayson snipe my player, Nate, off high ground, shockwave up and grab it. But what we didn't see, and maybe didn't pick up on, was the fact that Moraine's team was also still alive. We followed them quite a bit, and you can see that's put them up to 8th place. They were both contesting at Stark, so they actually didn't fight in the early game today.
Yeah, and Vato's team is almost alive all the way towards the very end. They bump up from 15th to 13th, leaving room for Benji, Savage, and Lecce to move in. They actually won afterwards in Doom's Domain. That was really nice to see in the early game. Still, it just feels like we're seeing the same top 15 names after game number 1 survive and stand in the top 15. That's going to prove disastrous for some of these other teams. You know, Browners, Sammys, YZip, Noah Riley, Kriachi. Like, these guys want to move in.
Man, there's a lot of big names, right? I feel like EU is just that who you look at, you're like, oh, I feel like we've talked about everyone. You look at the next year, you're like, nope, we can't not talk about them. You look at over there, and you're like, okay, listen, you guys are just as good, right? There's so much possibilities that can happen here on the second day. Now, do keep in mind, this is just game 1. We have 5 more games that anything can happen. And Shy, in the past, we've seen stuff like this. Hey, teams all the way out in the front, suddenly everything changes. It could go either way, but what we do need to do is actually check in on this first place team of iDrops, Stursix, and of course, Vettel.
Yeah, this team in total just looks so good in this game. This was the win, actually, from the game. They came second. Mongol triumphed over them. But let's look at some context as to how these guys drop over, how these guys actually start off their games, and why they were in first place from yesterday.
They dropped at Lazy Lake, and you can see they were completely uncontested. They also have the Stark Jet down below there as well. And you can see their looting path, they just split this POI incomplete. And notice, we'll pick up on later, is the amount of AR ammo they have is absolutely nuts. Stursix managed to get 700 from this entire looting path. He actually managed to get 500 AR ammo before he even found a shotgun, which allows him in that later game, in the mid game, to really utilize that to get Storm Surge tags, just spray, spray, spray.
Yeah, and the new addition to Season 4, the Quinn Jets all around the map. These guys go all the way here and upgrade all the way to be able to have even more AR past Lazy Lake. So then, you know, we had 700 operating on Vettel, and then in total, we had like at least a minimum of 300 per player. Here's our feast frame for all the loadouts. iDrop kind of has that Hunter's loadout where he's looking for all those eliminations and to harpoon things in. Stursix is like the Juggernaut, has all the shields available from all the spots, all the AR, and then Vettel is kind of like that sniper, the engager / rotator. So some of these roles that we've defined are actually getting more complicated. They're more hybridy right now in trios, and people are kind of taking more than one job per person in the trio.
And that's exactly what we discussed yesterday. Roles aren't something solidified. It's just whoever's the best at those specific things will do them. The guy who's the best at sniper, it makes sense to give him the sniper. You can see, fantastic, that Tayson is leading ahead. This is our team that ended up winning, right? We watched them at the start there, ended up picking up that victory royale. You can see them trying to look for that high ground position. They take it, like I said earlier, with that snipe and just completely dominate with the spray down, down, down.
Yeah, both these trios actually met each other kind of in mid-ground and were side by side. The difference was that Stir6's trio chose to go towards low. That's where the Train H boys kind of just got completely dominated over and they controlled. And after that, you can see how on point Mongrel was. Their trio went up for height. So that is the difference between safety and then trying to win overall. And the win gave those guys the win, that type of playstyle. The safety amounted to a second place. So both teams prospered, both teams thrived.
Man, it's crazy to think, like, right? Yesterday we got that glimpse from when Mongrel and his trio did win that game. We thought, there's no way, right? Like, I even made a joke, who thought he was washed, not me. And today they're like, hey, look, we know the first place team is kind of ahead of us, but you can't count us out. We're going to take the first game on the day. Now, it is a first game VR with 9 eliminations, right? So it's not quite as good as Reese's trio, the 17, but again, they have that first day under their belt, right? They're like, okay, we can't let that kind of stuff happen again. We can't let teams push so far ahead. Now we're playing catch up. Mongrel, Mitro, Tayson. Can they do it though? If they can find a second VR, what happens then?
What happens then? Ooh, they can do good. They have the potential to jump up top 5. They're not. I don't think they're in place to get top first yet. But over the course of today, they really, really could put themselves in a position to get up into that first slot. Now, what we've seen, something a little bit funny from the end of the FNCS warm-up, was that they won over with 15 eliminations one game, and they actually made a joke. They said, we didn't win with 10 eliminations. We didn't win with 10 eliminations. And that was after Benji Fish's team won with two 10 elimination games, and they actually won this one with 9, so they didn't win with 10 eliminations either.
Well, guys, we're going to keep talking about this, but for right now, the games are back up, so let's send it over to the casters to take us in.
Zeke and the boys, Shayo and Reese. But Sundown, 10 eliminations, 15 eliminations, tomato. I mean, it all comes down to getting the victory royale. 25 points is a biggin. And this is game 2 out of the 6 that we have here for day 2. And we go from the opposite side, Sundown, from the south way up to the north, or expect teams that are landing in Doom's Domain and Stark Industries and Craigie Cliff to be a very strong position here going forward.
Well, as well as all of those teams who are now up in that northwest corner to have a little bit more time to get over there. Didn't see it as tightly contested yesterday, but you can see Mongo, Mitchell, Tayson, again, not necessarily as much contested going on as there was yesterday. Again, they had it relatively free for the first couple games and were able to convert on it. And actually, as I say that, I lie. Look down the bottom left-hand corner. Tayson sitting on 3 eliminations already off of the rip. So, hopefully we'll be able to get a replay and figure out what went on right there. He is sitting with a sniper rifle in his hands. We know just how effective that can be. But one thing I want to talk about now as we start kind of getting into the back half of these games and what we're looking for. Yes, the victory royales, the first and the second places in terms of the points are huge. But the bigger thing at this point in terms of who walks away with the number 1 spot is whether or not Vettel, iDrop, and Stir6 will have a bad game. Every single other team who is in the top 5 or even the top 10 has had 1 or 2 games where they're not able to get at least into the placement, not able to convert on a couple of eliminations. That's not true for the other guys. They've been into those top 2 and the top 3 situations more consistently than every other team. They've been able to convert onto one of them, and because of that, they're currently sitting at 2nd in terms of combined eliminations, tied with Kezek's 4ZR and Nate, only being out-earned by Floki, Clement, and Nakors. So, if they're able to continue getting those consistent drops and getting the space they need out of the Loot Lake area, then it's going to be near impossible for anybody else to overtake them just because of how many points are based into placement and just how hard it is. Imagine just every single second place. We've already seen them twice be forced out just because they were hip to hip and played cautious on the low ground together. Every single time they're able to do that, it adds so many more points to that lead.
And one of the things is Stir6, 14 years old, coming from the Play Well esports squad. He tweeted out, I'm aiming for top 1 tomorrow. Good night, boys. And that is the confidence that you're going to need as a professional player. You're seeing it done in the NA East region where they kind of put out a screenshot. This is where I'm landing. And you're right. Some of the things that they also utilize, Sundown, is this is about to break out here at Logjam, is that they use rifts really well. And we haven't seen a team on the broadcast use the rifts really well. And they kind of use it as a way to rotate in freely. But now, Snipe, Dezu, and Akuso is one of those other teams that kind of snip around the top 5 in day 1, is doing some big-time damage on Miro and his dog. Dog and Snap, from what I remember this trio's name. And this is a great place to fight in. Not only you kind of capitalize on the wood resources, but you could kind of dip on into the slurpy swamps and capitalize on those fishing spots. But the battle is not over yet, Sundown. The skirmish is still going out back and forth as Swab picks up an Elim here, and we haven't seen the heroic play. This is Season 4. Marvel's heroes are everywhere, but we're seeing heroes in the Fortnite Island right now competing, being the hero for the trio, and Swag is trying to be the hero that needs us right now, but now he's got to put on that full retreat and abandon this fight as he's now going to be chased down, and this is not a good situation for Swag here.
And that's kind of the sneak shot we talked about with that charged shotgun. That wasn't a headshot, but he was able to go through, and that fully charged shot from the uncommon charge was ended up coming through. But as you talk about it, Sancho, what do you see?
I see Benji, Lecce, and Mr. Savage not in Doom's domain, but out here on Frey Island contesting Coral Castle. This is interesting. What an interesting thing that they're doing, Sundown. I'm assuming that they're realizing that it's not worth contesting Doom's domain because of, look at the output, the results. It's too inconsistent. One game you're hot and the other you're cold. I know Katy Perry must be calling me all of a sudden, but that's what comes to mind when you're landing at Doom's domain in Stark's Industry.
But I mean, if we're talking about one way to describe Lecce, Benji, and Savage's gameplay recently, it's been a lot of yes and no, and I'm sure they feel like a paper bag floating through the wind, particularly when they're not getting those initial drops that they need. What's actually happening in this situation is they're going off of the start, and if they recognize they don't have the low drops at Doom, they're saying, hey, we've fought this without the first drop and without the 50-50 advantage enough times to know we can bail out to the side and kind of hit a scavenger route and maybe take advantage of the lesser teams that are in the Northwest. However, what they don't know, as we're the analysts sitting back here, is there's now 4 teams landing in that Northwest. So they've just thrown themselves into that Clown Fiesta as we hop into another Clown Fiesta of the fight, driven by the French trio here, Forziar, Kezix, and Nate. And again, just as a reminder, we call him the French trio, with Grizzy being the French org going through. Forziar is a Swiss resident right now, and I believe of Vietnamese descent, unless his flags on his Twitter profile are lying. But he's doing a good job of keeping the pressure up on the high ground, trying to utilize that charge shotgun. Again, notice he's not getting directly wall to wall. He's staying about 2 away, getting enough of a charge and sending it through, because that's the same as a pump shot in those situations. You don't get to control as much as the quick edits in the fight, but you can put out just as much damage.
And at the same time, it allows your teammates to kind of reposition yourself, to create a better pinch, to create another angle. I mean, we've been seeing different ways of box fighting as a trio, where one person knocks out the floor down below. But sometimes you just got to go wall to wall, go to peanut butter edits, and do your best. But now Kezix, down he goes, and Forciar has to break his attention to help out his squad. And yes, there's a nice from behind play right there from 4ZR. And he, right now, this trio is letting everybody know that they are firework and they're showing what they're worth. And it's a big time thing to do on the FNCS broadcast, because not only that, your shine goes further, your socials go up when you show out and you do your best on the main stage.
And good job recognizing they needed to double back to his teammate who's trying to stick the revive. Forziar is the only one who really has the HP and the loadout to aggressively be taking these fights. And as they do that, he gets taken down and he turns around. Forziar is able to finally clean up that fight. Florini put out a good effort, was able to take one with him, but Forziar should be able to work back in. He'll get the revive on Nate. They'll be looking to get a reboot right there just to the north of them, considering there's at least one team, probably 2, a little bit to the south. They have a decent amount of utility here in terms of the heals to get themselves both up to effective shields. But they need to be quick in terms of rotating out of here, because they're going to be on a number of teams' rotation paths.
Man, what a battle. And just look at the aftermath there. All the mat resources used. But at the end of the day, it is Reese's prediction that continues on. And these are the kind of engagements that you definitely need to have. You need these because you get those abilities to avoid the storm surge later on. And not only that, you get in those elim points. And those elim points are going to be a huge difference going forward. Because again, only the top 15 progress here today. And that is going to be a huge weight off your shoulders going forward, knowing that you qualify for heats, but it's Airwalk right now. And what a big time knock on Tayson. Now we have the old school 2 battles going out right now. And this is going to be a big thing. And you know that Airwalk is not going to let that go, because he is the one that loves to talk it. And when he talks it, he has to back it up with his walk. And he's doing it right now. And this is going to be a big time player out of this match here in game 2, Sundown. What a great snipe from Airwalk.
Yeah, and the headshot snipes giveth, and the headshot snipes taketh away. Tayson hitting the huge one that enabled them to have the high ground advantage there, but getting caught by a quick little reaction shot there from Vitality's airwalks. Then they're able to convert on it. You saw they tried to get Tayson's body out and away, throw it kind of down towards that river to break the line of sight. However, the relentless push coming out from another French trio, Vato and airwalks being kind of the long-standing veterans. They've been around the scene as long as there's been a scene. Honestly, since before there was a scene, with the French snipes community being kind of one of the first organized practices to even exist. But then Leo adding onto it and a good pressure to pick up the elimination, the refresh, and part of Stark's loot coming out there. Now we're going to flip on over here. Anas, Flick, and Thomas HD recently signed there. To Gamma, and he's been having a really good performance as of late.
Now the squad is in 6th place coming into this game. That is the cumulative standing going in right now with 96 points. They're looking very strong. They got one victory royale, got about 36 eliminations in between the 2-day spread. But now we're looking at the remnants of that fight. It continued in a different way. Already, Metro squad is already in trouble, but this squad, Lechi's, Benji, and the Savage are looking very, very strong. And they kind of brought this up in the analyst desk where you could kind of VOD review, look into the replay client, and look for other trios that may be easier to take up. Now, granted, everybody's at 0.01%, but we're talking about the elite going against like the super elite. And Mr. Savage and Lechi and Benji have a lot of ground to take up, considering that they were going into this around the bubble. They're in 14th place at the moment right now, going to this match, 15. So as it stands, they barely qualify. And for someone that the whole world has been placing their bets on Benji, Savage, and Lechi to definitely like make waves in this trios competition, that has had to be something that they thought about. And you're already seeing the fruits of their adjustment paying off.
And one of the big things we'll be talking about a lot today is that top 15 line. The reason being, in NA East and in Europe, the top 15 teams will guarantee a spot into the heats, which means you don't have to stress for the rest of the weeks. You have the ability to kind of, I don't want to say take the time off, but practice your drop spot a little more, be contending only for the money and not having to worry about whether or not you've qualified through to that. And right now we've seen Aqua and Noah Riley and Rezon are very much so on the outside looking in, haven't really been able to convert on enough of their opportunities, currently sitting at 40 points. Benji, Savage, and Lechi are the line right now at 52, but as you start getting through the games, you're thinking, oh yeah, it's okay, we still have 5 more games left. But then all of a sudden it's, oh, there's only 4 more games left. And then it's, oh, well, there's 3 more games left. And if you're not really able to get kind of that signature game where you're able to get that top 3 in a number of eliminations or sneak into that top 2 and get that big +4 placement points, then all of a sudden it becomes that much harder to really realistically contend. And right now they're going to send a little mystical bomb, hello, so become Legends neighbors over on the other side of the domain. And right now we see a little bit of a rotation, a potential fight coming out from Rotary and Co. Trying to hold Sipe on the edge here. Nice little exercise in gatekeeping, knowing that this duo looks a little bit in shambles.
What a better start to the day for Rotary, Kirachi, and Stormy. They're having clean rotations out of their Slurpy Swamps area in the Slurp factory. And all day yesterday, if you missed out in the broadcast, they were having so many struggles out of there, often leaving shambles, often eating a lot of storm damage. But right now, they are gatekeeping and have a strong opportunity to pick up an elimination. And this squad is kind of in the middle of the pack. And you kind of mentioned it, Sundown. It is a trio as low as like 28th place. It's essentially in striking distance to qualify. Nice big-time hit right there on Snip. And the power of the Victory Royale is really strong, and especially the top 3. So getting that Victory Royale like Rotary and Stormy, Right, and Kiriachi that haven't gotten one could essentially put them into qualify. And I kind of piggyback on your point there, Sundown, is it also gives you an opportunity to try out new strategies, to make mistakes. And it's probably a common mistake I say is like, yo man, I meant to lose this one. Get the L's out the way because we got to make rooms for the dubs. So that is what you could do going into the following weeks. But we all know the strength of Kiriachi. He was a new addition to Rotary Army, kind of replacing Toos, and that was a very strong trio in itself. But it's going to be interesting to see how this change in the roster works out for this trio going forward.
And you can see them completing their exercise in that gatekeeping activity, and it looks like they're going to get an A+ from the professor, getting all 3 eliminations. Dezinho, Sipe, and Akusto going down there, also converting with the headshot snipe on the ground, making sure they're maximizing the Storm Surge damage. With 66 players remaining and 23 trios up, basically 2/3 of the lobby still on their feet. It's not going to be necessarily as much of a worry. We've only really seen kind of that second zone Storm Surge come into play a number of times. EU particularly known for being a little bit more aggressive than some of the other regions. I mean, we saw it so much with NA yesterday. We kind of have to beg them to take a fight sometimes. But right now, Nate begging to try and get a conversion onto this. A great snipe going on to Kiriachi. And again, we talked about it. The headshot snipe giveth and the headshot snipe taketh away. This time, the karma a little bit more instant. But Stormy right now going box to box here and showing the strength of that epic pump back to back 200 amplify eats the other. Stormy right goes down. Rotary gets the conversion, but the siphon unfortunately not going to come through. It's going to be wasted since Stormy right was on the ground. He's going to try and get those pickups right away as the Storm is holding them on the edge, but a brilliantly done play by Stormy right to kind of salvage it there. But they shouldn't have ever been put in that situation. You can't really afford to get sniped when you're that far away from the zone. You need to be covering yourself with ramp, and it's going to force them to burn a lot of utility that hopefully the eliminations they just got will be able to replenish.
Absolutely, and Rotary storming right. Kiriachi is doing really, really awesome, and it's exciting to see that, you know, the mean is coming back. They're not having those struggles that they're having. They're actually showing out, and they just show you an exercise of being on the other side of being gatekeeped and how you could kind of get away from that. But now we got a replay here of Gamma Gaming. Here's Cammy doing some work here in that Coral Castle, and you're seeing some new people in the fray of Benji Savage. But you're taking a look here at the great plays that are happening for Cammy, using the swamp rat technique to pop out of the water, kind of like Rambo, and all of a sudden getting a big time hit with that green pump. Gamut Gaming, GG, Cammy, what a show that you're putting on here, and I love the angles that you're finding. But these are the kind of battles that we've been seeing throughout the entire FNCS trios. You're going to have to win them, and you're going to have to do this when the screen looking purple.
And a really good job from him there, utilizing the tactical SMG. We haven't really talked about it or seen it as much just because of given the changes to the weapon. It's not necessarily as efficient. It's much more worth to have your utility spot and utilizing the AR. But when you get into a box-to-box fight and you're able to just kind of spray constantly against your opponent, but the real kicker there is Cammy just being more used to and at least having, it seems like, more practice fighting in the water there. He knew where to dip down. He knew kind of when to time his shots in terms of jumping on out, knowing when the animation would switch over, and just landing 2 massive shots that I don't think his opponents are ready for, cleaning that one up.
And those are the advantages of knowing your POI. Yes, you could make a halftime adjustment. You could change it up like Benji Savage and Lecce, as we see here. You could do all that, but not having that knowledge, that in minute knowledge, those details. They always say it's all in the details, and those details gave Cammy a phenomenal 2-piece right there, and the trio the rest of the elimination. But I did see in the feed, I think Mitra went down to Airlock, so that fight is still going on, and I mean, that trio may be out. Mongrel may be out by himself, but right now, Lecce, Savage, and Benji are doing some work right now on B Hard. Buster gets busted right now, and down goes Mods. And actually, there is Stir6. Stir6 is here as well, so this is going to be a 3-way battle. And you look at the congestion that's happening right here, the fight for center, as Lecce goes down. So it's up to Savage and Benji. And look at this. This is what I've been seeing. Stir6 squad always likes to play for center, and iDrop and Bettle right now are going to have to do their best to survive, and down goes Lecce. So we have a big battle already. The first place team is holding on tight, and not only that, Sundown, they're taking out big names in the trio competition.
And one thing you'll note in particular, we've talked about it time and time again with them, they focus on being hip to hip at all times.
Yes.
That's a big thing, and you'll notice in trios that it just so happens that the person who happens to go down is just always either alone or there's one person missing, and that's when trios are able to convert. If you don't have all 3 people there, one to defend, one to immediately stick the revive, and then kind of be able to get that third person up, a trio has the ability to close the gap and get that elimination. As you can see, iDrop's team now has 5 games where they finished in the top 5, the most of any team in the NA or EU, and particularly they've won one of those games. 2 of those games they've been second place with the entirety of their team, making it all the way through in the low ground with very little threat onto them. They avoid taking fights unless they know they can get somebody out there, and right now utilizing an early bouncer shockwave to get to the center zone like you were talking about, as we're going to swing away from the center and back on over to the action being forced at the edge.
A lot of fights are happening on the edge, and this is the moments that we're getting closer and closer. This is the mid game right now. Zone 6, 7, 8, 9, those full rotations are the ones that are going to be so awesome, and that is where the nerds of Fortnite, they love to see. In the in-game, when it gets hot, it gets cooking, and all the players are going to have to figure out everything that they worked up to from early to mid-game. Did it work out? All the ingredients that they have for their, I guess, for their masterpiece, their master dish, is it going to be able to work out, or is it going to all be thrown into the kitchen sink if it all goes down south quickly? This team, Exponential, Mex, and Astro, are looking very strong starting off in day 2 with 17 points. The score that you see is just day 2, and then during the breaks, we will bring you a cumulative leaderboard to make sure that everyone's up to speed. And this is only game 2. We got 4 more to go. Vato picks up 1 as well, and you're seeing that there's not a lot of elevation here in the distance. So just like Monster and D-Face and Ozzy Antic said, it's going to be a good old-fashioned Fortnite fight.
There we talk about kind of how the different changes in elevation can force you to have to use your utility, whether early or later. But with 18 trios remaining, the next trio to fall will miss out on those placement points, and then it's 1 point per placement up until the top 2, where you get an additional +4 going on there, and then the victory royale is +5. So keep an eye on that ticker in the top left, and the trios who are all going to be hugging and rotating next to each other. We've seen become legends, as well as our top trio of Vettel, iDrop, and Sir6, all being pretty much the top of class when it comes to staying hip to hip and rotating together, which is so key in these late game situations. It might not enable you for the most opportunity to get eliminations, as we see Benji and Savage able to convert on a pair, but right now OT Exponential, aka Hardfind, able to find one. That was Cammy, the Dolphin from earlier, and Exponential goes down. He's able to get the knock onto Artur, goes down to 1 HP, but then Rasco ends up picking him up and getting the conversion onto him. Rasco able to just barely save Artur there. He's going to try and stick the revive as the zone is coming in. Don't think he'll actually have time for this and have this be efficient. Nope, and as I say that, it gets taken out right away. Hardfind goes back, make sure he closes that one out as the zone continues to move forward.
That was a battle between 12th place and 4th place on the cumulative leaderboards right now. But look at height is Noah Riley, Aqua, and Reason, who are doing very strong. And we know right now, considering that Benji and Savage kind of left Doom's domain, that they will have those powerful weapons, especially Doom's mystical bomb. We haven't seen a lot of use of it here in the EU region, but it creates so much chaos for the people down below. If you're looking on the top right, that is Noah Riley at height. Right now, there is nobody sitting above them, so there is an opportunity for someone to take over with one shockwave or a bounce pad. Rotary down low on your bottom right screen is fighting the low ground, and this is where it's going to get chaotic. This is where all the trios have to keep their head on a swivel, making sure that no one takes over, no one ejects themselves into their lair. But the most strongest position right now is at height. And if anyone is between the two, if you're the meat of the sandwich, you're going to get beamed down below. And the height is essentially going to look for anyone that's building out of wood or soft materials, because those headshots could kind of sneak their way through. So right now, Noah Riley, Aqua, and Reason are doing very strong, considering already Benji's down, Clement's down. And look at this overview, and you're seeing why it's such a dominant position, Sundown.
Yeah, though the only thing that kind of scares me is the fact that they only have single tarps. There's one connection relatively far back, so if somebody does decide to go, they could be a little bit under threat. However, Noah Riley is sitting on the extra shockwave, and with the build circling mostly back over that single tarp, they should be relatively uncontested. This is their match to win unless they mess up the execute on the drop down. However, right now you have Rotary trying to do it all in the bottom right-hand corner. The French trio, we talked about them putting a stamp on the game. It's been a chaotic one for them so far, but 11 eliminations. Make it 12, make it 13 even. Nope, just 12. Not quite able to get the conversion on the next one yet, but top 4 from them. Rotary's in your bottom right. Noah Riley in the top right with the high ground control. That's Dooms with Aqua and Rezone as well trying to work on the bottom. You can see Nate 4ZR finally going down. Kiriachi will get knocked as well, so it's largely going to be on the back of Rotary. And can he make these plays on the low ground just with all of the pressure? Let's keep an eye on him and see what he's able to do. Stormy Wright still with him as well as we get into our top three. It's 4ZR, Nate and Crow. Oh no, it's not actually. I lied. It's Dennis, BTS, and Sammy. But Noah Riley, Rezon, and Co are going to be able to clean it out, dropping down from the high ground and a little bit of skeet shooting action there at the end, Sancho.
There you go. What an unbelievable finish. We got 7 elims and the victory royale for Noah Riley, Aqua, and Rezon. And you're seeing that is a big time need for them. Going into day 2, they were basically around 20th place. But now with that pickup, we're seeing Mongrel. We're seeing that squad there with Noah Riley and Aqua. They are heating up. So yes, they had some new faces on the top of the board, but Sundown, the old names are making a return here in day 2.
And I think the Russian trio being able to kind of push forward and make the end game is going to signal a change in confidence for them. We might see a little bit of shift of what happens in the Southwest, but those 32 points is going to be that signature victory that really kind of pushes up that other Doom's Domain team into the top 15. However, we're going to toss it back on over to Zeke, Shio, and Reese to break down match number 2/8 of the day.
My oh my, Sundown's predictions coming up big here on the second game of the day, but also, as he said, technically game number 8. You like to see it, a pretty clean victory royale, all things considered.
Absolutely, yeah, that was very clean. Vic Roy, also very impressive that, these guys have been contested time and time again over 2 days, and they're still finding the strength and, the strats to be able to make endgame, even if they don't see it half the time, and then winning it out.
Yeah, we have to take a look at the standings, see how much these points have done for them. Don't forget, for you viewers at home, it is the top 15 teams at the end of the day that will advance. Now, Vettel, iDrop, and Stursix still holding on, but here we go. In second place, Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate. Reese, your trio prediction still holding on as well.
Indeed, they did. 8 eliminations they had this game, actually. A little bit under the radar. They came 4th, so they were still in and around all that kind of chaos on low ground that was happening, but still clearly managing to frag out and pick up 8 eliminations, and that's why they're consistently staying in that top 3 slot. It is very, very close, though. Only 1 point difference between them and Floki, Clement, and Nico Ozar.
Yeah, you have to be scared of Flick, Thomas Aishi, and Anas as well. These guys have only really held their spot or gone up, which means 5th is what they're declaring is their space to control, and they're shooting now up towards 1st. Still, there's a big chance that that could go a little bit messy as we move forward. Look at all these other trios behind them. ADN, Matzo, Amplify, always controlling low. The Become Legends trio is also so well at controlling height. Sometimes, though, it doesn't always go as planned towards the end of the game. I hope they hold on to that. Top 15, though, Vato is back there, but he's clinging on for dear life. Remember, that is the qualification threshold. Noah Riley with that win bumps their trio up to 13th, which right now is the lucky number for these guys because they have basically at this point qualified for the heats if they control and hang on.
My, oh my, boys. I can't believe, and this is kind of what we see a lot, right? Is in these moments, these clutch moments where you have to make something happen, having that great game to just push you into the standings, it's all about hanging on. It's all about relying on your talents as a trio to just continue to earn those little bit of points you need to hold on to your current placement spot. Now, guys, I gotta say, that last game was pretty dope. And I think, actually, I got word... hold on, let me grab it real fast. There's actually some evidence that Victory Royale was super incredible. And I think I need you guys to break this down. So I'm shy. I'm just going to go ahead and pass this on over to you. Here you go, my friend. You can take that.
Thank you very much, Zeke.
Gentlemen, break this down for us.
Now let's look at the replay real quick. At Detective Agency Analyst Desk, it's your first detective, Shio Wager, analyzing exactly what mysterious things went on down over at height. How did Noah Riley get all these beams with his position, Reese?
Well, Assistant Detective Reese coming in. They managed to grab that high ground early on by using a shockwave play. And you notice they've got the Doom's Mystical Bomb off spawn. They're just consistently pressuring second height, pressuring all of these victims down below.
Oh, new evidence, though. We see that some people tried to go up top and claim it, but they were shut down. There was an objection in the court in terms of anyone trying to get too high because they were so far up, and Noah Riley was actually staying far back and beaming anyone who had a chance to actually rise up.
Indeed, and they can manage to consistently keep this high ground. The players below stand in absolutely no chance. Pressure, pressure, pressure in the core. Maybe they're going to give up their accusations.
Absolutely no. O'Reilly, though, had to actually bring that pressure down all the way to the bench, down to the low ground, and shot still over and over with that AR firsthand, choosing and controlling every single off angle and landing that final pump way in the air. Sundown called it skeet shooting. I just see that he has this court open case completely shut. Now, though, I'm opening up what Zeke brought me. I see still some evidence left over. We see a little med kit, actually. Let me analyze that. Nice, nice, nice. The med kit, the heal plays, everything was not needed in that game. From my analysis, I'm just saying this trio dominated. They had height, they controlled height, they won the game.
Just like that, guys. An open and shut case. Thank you to the agency for helping us out for this. Very well executed upon. Of course, guys, don't forget we have another 4 games left to go. Top 15 will be the ones that push through. And now it's a mad dash. For those on the bubble, can they push on through? Can they, those on the top 15 on the inside of the bubble, can they continue their points, holding on for dear life? Gentlemen, I mean, I think it's going to be an all-out brawl in these next 4 games. What do you think, Shai?
I would actually agree. Taking off my glasses real quick to see another form of evidence we got that game. It's all about the beams. It's all about the legendary AR, in a sense, right? We saw it with Noah. We saw it in a game before with Mongrel as well. The name of the game so far has been accuracy. I know we break down splits a lot, but so far these trios who get in a position to aim and beam down from height are the ones that get the most elims and then overall the win.
Well, you know, guys, I think we need to do some more detective work here on our end. So for now, let's get ready to send it back into game with Sancho West and Sundown for game number 3.
Thank you so much, PIs over there and Zeke, but you might be private investigators and detectives. However, I am Hackerman, and now you should probably reset all of your passwords because I can see your computer there in those sunglasses. So I got all the information I needed. Thank you very much. Shio, if you see a brand new TV being delivered to somewhere in the United States, I promise you it's not me.
Oh my goodness. Hey, maybe Jennifer Walters, aka She-Hulk, could use those detectives for her Law and Order, but we've been seeing here the Law and Order of trios returning into kind of what's essentially been the old names, kind of getting a back-to-back victory royales in terms of Mongrel's team, and then we saw an Aqua squad getting one right there. But you know what was the difference? Savage, Lexi, and Benji deciding to leave uncontested Doom's Domain for Aqua's trio. And that ripple effect led to Noah Riley, Rezun, and Aqua getting that victory royale easy peasy. So now they can decide we're not going to go ahead and go, you know, all the way to the Frey Islands to Coral Castle to pick up those elims. Instead, we're going to make sure that Rezun, Aqua, and Noah Riley don't have that Twitter fodder to kind of throw at us.
And I think probably a big proponent here, and I'd honestly like to see when we drop in, if we could see that just where the initial bus path was, probably has a lot to do with it, because the one thing I've noted particular about Benji, Savage, and Lexi's squad is if they don't feel confident in their drops or where they're able to actually path through, they'll gauge on whether or not they can get just a couple chests and then have to leave, or whether or not they're able to actually go and contest. And so far, it seems like they're taking a much more cautious approach as opposed to yesterday, valuing if, hey, they don't think they have the distinct drop, that instead get whatever chests and get whatever loot they're able to grab from the north side and then just get out of dodge. Because while the vault is incredibly strong, it's very time consuming to actually go down there and get the loot out of. So if another team commits to just looting the north side, getting enough mats and shields to then get out, they can either go on a safe rotation or, as you can see now, try and set up a little bit of a pincer and a little bit of a net on those guys trying to leave the vault.
Yesterday in day one, we saw the battle kind of play out. And Benji's trio got an early bop on Aqua's trio, capitalizing on Dr. Doom getting a knock on Aqua's trio. And we had some huge highlight 1v3 situations, especially Rezun, who's kind of was blowing up Reddit right there with his epic 1v3. And all of a sudden, now in day two, this is the first engagement that they had. In the first game, they kind of just not necessarily split it. They were just like, all right, we're cool, you're cool. But we got some replays of a big times engagements that are happening in Stark Industry with Tayson, Mongo, and Mitro. We already saw this in day one, the 50-50 for the guaranteed chest. And let's see how while this plays out, we're going to go ahead. Tayson does get the floor loot and the opportunity to go ahead and assist the people up top, and bang! Moraine gets greeted with that green pump from by the backside, and here's another opportunity to get the two-piece 72 and right-hand peek action. It's going to come eventually. Get it? Come on, Tayson. You're teasing me right now, but there it is. That guaranteed dive right into that chest, finding the floor loot. And this is the point of entry that all these trios like to make, Sundown, in this spot.
And you can see him trying to find the follow-up onto Lenouf. We talked about kind of how that charged shotgun is so effective when you don't have over 100 effective HP in Lenouf. Again, just keeping the pressure on top of Mongo, but it all comes down to Tayson with a nice little triangle, a.k.a. peanut butter edit. The reason it's called that because you cut your PB&Js. You cut them diagonally. Nobody cuts them horizontally or vertically.
Wait a minute.
Come on.
Are you sure? I mean, horizontal, it's a fire cut, dude, you know?
No, you cut your peanut butter jellies and sandwich diagonally, and anything else, I honestly think you're probably a sociopath. But you do that little triangle edit, it keeps your right hand, you jump and you shoot, and you barely expose yourself, makes it kind of hitting the pellets from that charged shotgun that much more difficult. But honestly, I don't want to say that was lucky, but Tayson scuffed his landing on the chest, hit his head on the balcony, and just so happened to fall directly on top of the one weapon that could have got him out there. If he gets anything that's not a pump in that situation, I'm not necessarily sure Tayson's able to convert on enough early pressure there to get the first knock and to force Lenouf away, who had the charged shotgun. I think even if he had a charge in that circumstance, he's not really able to get those shots. So a little bit of luck falling his way, but a whole lot of skill to then execute it on it afterward. 3 eliminations coming out from Mitro, Mongrel, and Tayson, and they will be the ones holding Stark Industry.
Yes, Mongrel, Mitro, Tayson ending day one not so well. They lost this POI 3 times in a row. So no doubt they went back to the drawing board and formulated a new plan. But hey, Sundown, what about toasting the PBJ? I mean, a little light toast, is that too crazy? Am I living the life?
You should always toast your bread before you make a sandwich, unless you're going for like a dedicated cold cut. And even then, I'm an advocate for like at least a little bit of crunch. So if it's not going to be something toasted and you're going to go cold, I think you should at least be going towards like maybe a sourdough or maybe even like a sesame bagel. I'm kind of more of like a breakfasty kind of fan when I go towards sandwich. You know, I'm a big advocate for breakfast sandwiches.
I feel that, you know, Mitro, Mongrel, the Benjis of the world are like the sourdough. Everybody loves sourdough bread. But right now we're on to like maybe a bread that is unknown. Maybe a rye here, you know. Mito, Tony, and Mythic, they're right now looking at the leaderboard in 11th place. So right now they qualify. And speaking of the sourdoughs of Benji and Savage and Lecce, they're right now on the outside looking in, sitting at 17th place. So we're seeing some new names making an appearance here. And we already saw the studies from all the analysts out there that if you have your name correctly, and I will say this in this way, if you have your name and branding all matching, your socials will go up. And maybe, who knows, you probably sign a big contract with somebody out there. Just saying, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think of, Sundown.
Well, I mean, I'm a big proponent. I've been Sundown for, I think, now longer than I haven't been Sundown, picking up the name right around when I was 13. And, I mean, you can then guess the older part of my age from then. I'm not going to reveal it here. But, I mean, we just saw a number of players also swap their name back to kind of clarify their branding, recognizing that, like, hey, I'm on this final cast. Maybe I should have my full name in there now. However, if you're someone like Mitro, he just doesn't really care. Instead, he puts his binds on there, letting him know that not only are you getting beaten, but you're getting beaten by somebody who uses those function keys. As right now, 4ZR, Kezix, and Nate trying to close the gap again. And honestly, one of our top trios who we see consistently taking early fights and executing on them incredibly well. Kezix already sitting with 1 elimination. It looks like 4ZR and co are trying to clean up the rest. They already have this player boxed in towards the side, getting the cones over the top. This is Dovin, who is currently under pressure from just 4ZR himself, kind of waiting for Kezix to catch up and help him out there, which I think is going to signal the end for Dovin as his teammates trying to provide a little bit of support fire, but from a distance, AR fire at this range is only going to do so much. Dovin going down there.
Looks like 4ZR, Kezix, and Nate now have to solve a trio that is kind of making their way too. Dazin, Akusto, and Snip are in the distance right there. So as you see, that's why Kezix takes that high ground dominant position. And Dazin that now is realizing he's made a mistake and mistiming that third-party opportunity on the bottom of the screen is in the full retreat. But I don't think the aggression of Nate and Kesix are going to let this go right now. And, you know, I've been seeing Dazen and Snipe be like an opportunist squad, but this may be a situation where they kind of stir the pot too early and they kind of ruin their souffle opportunity.
This is a horrible fight. This is an awful idea. If they just cleaned up another trio, you saw the names in there, you saw the shooting stop after they resolved it. They're going to have excess mats from knocking out that material. They're going to have what other utility they had there and their choice of weapons. All you got was a couple rifle tags off of the start. Why are you challenging the second place team who has been the only one consistently taking and dominating these early fights? I mean, just look at the pressure. Look at how they swarm. They find a target and then they make sure they're able to close the gap. They don't lose track of the flankers. They're continuing to kind of funnel these guys all together until they're able to get somebody forward. And we've only seen really one game where this has ended up going south for them so far. So honestly, if I'm Sipe & Co., I'm seeing if we can't get together and use some form of utility to just get out of here.
Yeah, but it looks like also another option was a big crack right there. Dazen was able to get on Forziar's trio mate, and they're going to have to – now it's just a matter of now, is it worth this fight? As you can take it, so we took a peek at the zone. It is going towards a little bit more center. These two trios are not in it, and we have been seeing throughout the entire broadcast, all FNCS competitive, that if you are being gatekeep, you're going to have the opportunity to lose a lot of, you know, HP, map resources. All those things are going to be a factor. But also another sneak peek into that storm map that we saw, Doom's Domain is in, and that squad of Noah Riley and Aqua, and of course we saw Benji Lecce there, they're going to kind of be there for a long time. And when you have a vault access there, you can kind of take a fight and then retreat back into the vault to replenish your health. And now we're seeing another pop-off match happening right here.
And you can see Jamside and Co. Him and Letwick and Hellraiser have done a really good job of pressuring key trios. Jamside, the veteran in particular, has been around even since the summer and fall skirmish days, continuing to show that he's one of the stronger players, made it to World Cup in the duos side, but right now they're trying to challenge that top-ranked team, and it's something we've talked about, how Sturzix, iDrop, and Vettel have done so well of staying together and not getting picked up in the early game. Their 8th place finish in 3 eliminations was the worst game they have had since match number 3 yesterday, where they placed 9th. So they've been doing incredibly well in just keeping forward and making sure they stay in the games, which is what it's all about.
We're looking at
Hellraiser. 17th. I apologize, 17th, not 9th.
At the moment right now, Hellraiser, Jamside, Letwick are in 22nd place on their leaderboard. So this is going to be a battle between 22nd and first place. And you're seeing the rest of the lobbies now focusing in. So many triangles are looking towards this. And Letwick's team has been doing a lot of work, 1,000 above the Storm Surge, but now they have to do this work that's right in front of them. Sometimes the hardest job to do is the one right in front of you. And Letwick's squad cannot procrastinate, because if they do, they're going to kind of have to do some cramming and some late nights right there, as Letwick there gets a big-time snipe in the distance. And that is why their Storm Surge is so high. Snipers are a big factor in a trio. So people like Thomas HD, Letwick, we saw Tayson as well. Big time opportunities to use that sniper and its effectiveness. But look at the so much builds that are happening in the center. And it's going to be so interesting to see if in-game goes over these existing old school builds.
And one of the things we saw there right as he was able to get the shot onto Astro was Paco was actually able to pick up Vettel and get the conversion onto him. So that's the first time we've seen a member of that trio actually be stripped away. So how much can iDrop and Sturzix, with limited resources, limited extra shields, and limited builds, now do? Particularly, they pulled zone again, so they're not necessarily going to be under pressure. But this is the first time we've really seen that team really be forced to it, as Tayson now forces Mechanical Yoda to go into blue light country, takes him out there with 2 of the legendary Stark rifle shots, the 53 body damage being so high and that first shot accuracy reset being so quick. So good shots from him there. We know just how accurate he can be. His teammate, Abuelo Jack, trying to create some distance for him, but it will be converted on eventually there. Milo picks up a nice double for himself, but Tayson looking to get aggressive. Mitro, however, meets the other side of it. Tayson going to immediately equalize that with a 200 pump himself. Mongrel and Tayson trying to close the gap here so they can make sure they convert before Mitro goes down. They will close it out. It's now a 2v1.
Wow, just some moments of everybody going, just to breathe right there, to stop and hold on. Mongo, Mitro, and Tayson, who went down a little bit early here. Now I'm going to close this out on Abuelo, and then they kind of had some shambles situations, and you can't be afraid when you're going toe-to-toe against a big name in the community. X-Flash, during the interview during DreamHack, kind of said that at first these kind of nerves got to them, and sometimes the nerves do get to you when you see the feed and your teammate goes down to Mongo and Mitro, as Mongo was able to close out the door on that trio of Abuelo and Yoda and Antu now have to go back into the drawing board and wait again. But you're looking into the distance on the north side of the mini-map as we have a replay real. This is what I was talking about. Noah Riley and Aquas and Reason holding down on Doom's Domain. And there it is, using that utility of the crash pad to kind of get their way into a box. And this is extreme pressure. We're talking about 3 people diving right in, and they get the shutdown, sundown.
I mean, you don't want to see that if you're Benji, Lecce, and Co. Savage getting taken out right away. Noah, again, making sure you get that shakedown. And the benefit, too, if you're the ones who get the vault, look how much excess utility he has to the 4 shockwaves, the extra crash pad, able to use the shockwave to then close the gap on Lecce, making it his turn to then effectively 1v3, one of the strongest trios in the game there. Noah Riley showing up huge there, but having control of the vault means you're able to burn those crash pads and burn those shockwaves, knowing that, yeah, most times you can't really afford to have one of your shockwaves and crash pads be used in an early game engagement. He had 3 more in an extra crash pad sitting in the bag, and I promise you, if you circle back to the vault, there's more sitting there. So very well done from them closing it out, but we've seen why Benji, Lecce, and Savage have opted to audible away from taking that fight, and I think maybe it's time to go somewhere else.
It's going to be a tough one to ask right there, changing it up so late into the game. We're already in game 3 right now. They have 3 more games, and already they're on the outside looking in before starting this as the triple beans are happening right now. We're seeing a big-time congestion here in Salty Springs, so the people at like 4ZR's Reese's pick are going to have to figure out how to rotate us, considering so minutes of the lobby is sitting right and directly in their path, and I think they kind of take a rotation a little bit more, spiraling towards the north side as you see zone pools a little bit more. And this is going to be the situation here. We all know that center's at play for our first place team. We already saw so many players kind of playing for that. Now you're seeing Rotary, Kiriachi laying down some beams on the outside looking in. But so many builds are being exhausted right now. It'd be interesting to see what happens in late game as we see Airwalk, Vato, and Leo coming all the way from upstate New York have a nice prime metal base right there looking down on Artor, Cami, and Raxo.
For those of you watching in Europe who don't know the upstate New York reference, that means very far north. Everyone generally thinks kind of Statue of Liberty and all that. In fact, that is just one city in New York, has a very large landmass very far north of it, and those guys are safe over towards that side. You know, it's very similar to the north side of this zone. You know, barren, a lot of empty lands, but some rolling hills, and the people there, you know, there's some fine people who are able to, like, really put some pressure on you, particularly if you end up talking to them about sports. They love their sports up in northern New York.
Who doesn't love sports right now, and who doesn't love esports? And right now, we're watching Fortnite competitive, and this is going to be an awesome month. We're talking about every weekend stacked with action in all regions, and right here on the Fortnite broadcast, we're going to be covering EU and NA East. A little bit later, we're going to have Day 2 action with NA East with Aussie Antics and Monster D-Face. You don't want to go anywhere. A lot of the big names, a lot of big personalities going here, but we got a lot of big names here. Gamma Gaming, Cammy right now, who's been putting in the work already in the replays, popping off right now, and now we're watching it live.
And it's currently has the 2 elims for his team. You can see them calling out the marks, pulls out the burst rifle, able to hit a couple shots there. 35, 35, 35. Tony catches all of those with his teeth, and Cammy sees that the pressure is going to be put on them, looks to see if he can't get an angle to potentially get some more shots going in, because Storm Surge will be a pressure. Those shots, however, putting them up above it, sneaking in some light bullets there, but the 9 HP is only really going to serve as kind of an annoyance and a way to help take down the builds. Notice he's relying on that because he has 300 plus light ammunition, so he's really, without the damage fall off, applying the walls, he's going to be able to kind of keep the pressure going on. What I'm curious as to what's going on with our top teams. We saw the Russian trio be able to put out a really strong performance last game. They pulled zone again this game, and Rotary right now is holding on to one of those legendary charge shotguns shotgun. So based off of where they passed, it seems like he's opting to take it, and that's a big part of the reason why. Unfortunately, not connecting solidly there, but still a nice 83 charge shot coming through. Somebody looks to crash pad in, going to immediately end that. And I didn't even see that shot come out. That was Sturzek's, and that was an insta-clear. And what that means is for the first time in the entirety of the tournament, it takes 9 matches, but our number 1 team has fallen outside of the placement threshold. This is the first opportunity for everyone else to be able to kind of close that gap a little bit and squeeze up here. Match number 9, match number 3 on the day, and now all of a sudden there's a little bit of a ray of hope for whoever can capitalize on this clearance.
And when the gate is a little bit open, that's when all the dogs come out to take that first place. It is an opportunity to do so. We're talking about the Keziks, the 4ZRs, the Nate, the Floki, Clement, Nacor, Hardfind, Mexi, Astro, and teams like Anas, Thomas HD, and Flick have an opportunity to get closer and closer. Thomas HD, Flick, and Anas going into 5th place on the leaderboard right now, who have been doing really well, averaging about 5 elims and coming into 10th place, as we are 9 positions away, or actually 2 placements away from placement points getting doled out, 9 positions away from the average finish of Anas and Thomas. And oh no, average finish doesn't matter. Kick that out the door as Anas goes down on his rotation.
A nice little ambush from there, and you said they're averaging about 9 to 10 points. Well, they're averaging 9 to 10 HP between them there. They were all in absolute shambles, and they're able to take advantage of it now. Back on over. Thomas and Flick, you can see Thomas looking for the opportunity, 144, but he can't follow it up right away. And the fact that that wasn't a 200, the fact that you can't hit it unless you hit every single headshot pellet there with the rare pump makes that so much more difficult. However, they have still pulled zone, and with 18 players left, the next trio to fall will signal the start of our placement points going through. Razon ends up getting a knock onto Letwick. Thomas gets the conversion, and while not getting any siphon or points through, they'll get some much-needed builds and also space on the front end of the zone as the moving circles start happening. Every zone will now be outside of the next. We transition into the late game and up on the high ground where our previous game victors, Rezon, Noah Riley, and Aqua, again walking away from Doom's domain. Can they convert it into a victory royale?
And teams like Sammy and Dennis are now in the mid-ground, and they have to be careful because Noah Riley and squad are going to be able to rain down so much firepower with Doom's mystical bomb. But that's not going to stop Sammy and Dennis and Kuji. Going to kind of put those edits down below to looking for those beams. And yes, they pick up some nice loot pickup. It's going to be a strong opportunity, though. The only thing that's missing is like a shockwave to be able to take height. But they have to be careful. Being on the mid-ground, you have to watch out up above. As you see in the beams coming up above, unbelievable pressure from at height, and it's going to push you down low. And we've been seeing squads like Matzo and that train hard being so deadly down there. So you got to work together, stay hip to hip, communicate, find the layers, and watch your backside. As Cammy goes down, the 6 was protected, but they do lose a member. So now it's up to Sammy to kind of clutch this by themselves. This is what we've been seeing in solos. Oh my goodness. The Caster's Curse is real, but Mona, making the first time appearance here in a kind of round 3 stage, is still cooking and vibing.
Yeah, I got plenty of experience yesterday, but now you can see the lobby catching up a little bit. You still have 4ZR there. Paco is playing the role of spoiler here, catching Mongrel. There was also the one who took out the number 1 team. So the team doing the scavenger route over by Sentinels now all of a sudden ends up with a bunch of loot from the Mythic with the 6 shockwaves. The question is, though, they're going to need to basically close 2 shockwaves worth of distance to even get up to contest high ground. If he's the only one holding, it's going to be near impossible as we swing back on board. Thomas HD on the low ground with a crash pad. Can he find the room? He has plenty of bullets, but no shield, no HP, and next to no builds. However, it doesn't matter. He finds Rotary, gets a huge refresher, now up to 40 builds, also finds a Slurpfish, also finds some minis, everything he needs to go on a potential run. And don't forget, Thomas yesterday was the one who came up with the absolutely absurd clutch to steal away a victory royale and a 7-point swing. Can he do it again using the bouncer to get ahead of the zone? This is a master class in why he is one of the best players in the region. A fantastic signing from Gamma, doing everything he can. He catches Kiriachi. That's another 2-point swing as he pushes into the top 10, Sancho.
the heroic plays are happening for Thomas HD as he's trying to hold on tight for the trio right now, but he has to overcome the deadly villains of a Height. Height, he got Aqua and Rezon doing the thing right now, laying down so many bombs down below, but it is Thomas who's laying down haymaker bombs, knocking out so many trios, and you know Flick and Anas are cheering him on. They're saying, you got this, you clutch for us once, but his builds are limited, so he's gonna have to put some major accurate shots here, considering that he only has a blue pump. And taking a look at the chaos that's happening, the fight for Height as Clement is challenging Noah, Aqua, and now it's Thomas right now who's going to go for another fight down below, but he has to be careful. He has no builds, ladies and gentlemen, completely out, but he does pick up another one, and that was a big time Elim, and another one. Juice, Leo, go down. Thomas,
he got shockwaves.
He's got shockwaves, Sundown. It is an opportunity, but he can't find the Height. Oh my, Thomas, can you do it, brother?
You're trying to drop the players down. One player ends up falling in front of him. He gets no siphon going through there. Didn't get the knock, but now he is outlived. As a solo, he's pushed all the way through into a top 3. And not only is it top 3, it is a winnable top 3. He finds the 100. Can he find the second? He needs the siphon. Switches to the bandage cannon, and the siphon comes through. All of a sudden, Gamma's Thomas HD on the low ground. 90 HP. No one dies. The lead goes to him. Thomas HD clutches up. That was absurd. Don't care if my mic is peaking. I'm gonna scream because that was the nastiest solo clutch I have ever seen, period. That was gross. And Sancho, you gotta be feeling good right now, man.
Holy Thomas HD with the big time performance right now. Shio, Zeke, Reese, good luck breaking that down, brother. Woo-wee!
Oh, man. Bro, Thomas HD. This is just something I always like to joke if I speak something out of the universe and just ask for the region to do some incredible stuff, this happens. But Thomas HD just said, hold my slurp juice. Check this out. That was just, I don't even know how to describe that. That was on a whole other level, Shy.
It was calculated and it was spontaneous at the same time. And if that happens, you just have fire and ice mixing together, making a new element, completely non-handleable by anyone else. If you touch it, you get burned, you go down, and Thomas is the only one alive at the end of the day.
I don't even want to break it down. It was too crazy. It was too crazy. The hype was too real. I was watching some insane stuff go on over and over again. I can't wait to see it again, honestly.
Man, well, guys, let's take a look at the standings. Did this clutch win from Thomas and crew rocket them up the standings? Ooh. You can see right now, after that game, they're in 4th place. They're pushing on that top 3. Flocky, Clement, Nakos are right in front of them. Reese, your prediction still holding strong in 2nd, and Vettel, iDrop, and Stursik still holding down this 1st place. I mean, Shy, we thought they couldn't make that run, but they're still holding strong.
Yeah, I mean, consistency is key when it comes to 12 games over 2 days. So, Kazakh 408, they're holding strong too. The 1st place team, impressively, is still in 1st after day 1. So, that huge boost they got there is amazing. Paco, Advice, and Jachu, these guys were all the way up on height in this game. Using that, they bumped themselves up all the way over to 6th. Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson are now moving up all the way to 7th. Noah Riley is still here after that big win that we just saw last game. The Become Legends trio is also active, but these guys are so close together in points, Reese.
And in that 8th place slot, Noah Riley, Aqua, and Rezon, like you've said. But probably what maybe got a little bit overshadowed by the fact that Thomas HD was popping off so incredibly is that Noah Riley, Rezon, and Aqua came 2nd with 12 eliminations, which is a huge game. 32 points in that game. So they're slowly climbing that leaderboard back up again.
Yeah,
and I think another thing to talk about. Oh, go ahead, Shy. I'm sorry.
No, go for it, or go for it, Zeke. What are you talking about?
My name is Zeke. One thing I did actually want to talk about is we've kind of also overlooked another team. Exponential,
okay.
Mexi, and Astro. These guys were in 4th place, now have dropped down to 5. We haven't seen too much of these guys in the games, but I think this is actually another team we do want to talk about here in just a second as we do take a look top 16 through 20. Don't forget, it is the top 15 teams that are going to move through. Sammy right now banging on that top 15 placement. They want to make it in. But yeah, to kind of take a step back, Astro, Mexi, Hardfine, a.k.a. Exceptional, These guys are a trio we haven't seen too much of, but they're still doing something right because they're holding on to top 5, and they have been since yesterday.
Indeed, they had only one game yesterday that was outside of the top 10. Only one. Not actually clinching up at Victory Royale at all, but still some really, really big consistency. And then again today, those first 2 games they had, really, really close. Still top 10 as well.
Yeah, from what I see from these guys, they're playing kind of to get to 5th and hit 5th overall every single game, and they get close. Very, very close. Sometimes there are a few errors, but I would say one of the most consistent trios we're seeing over these 2 days.
They are indeed. We've seen Astro drop all the way over at the weather station. Sorry, his trio member dropped the weather station. They're splitting Catty, weather station, and the camp. You can see, with that uncontested drop, the amount of loot that they get out. Chug splashes on 2 of the teammates, peppers, tons of mini, really, really good ammo. Actually, chug splashes on all 3 members, which is huge, huge healing potential, right? So this is something that's already going to be consistent. You can see from Letwick's perspective now, where do they go wrong? They've been so consistent, but where are they going wrong here?
Right now it's just over peaking completely from Astro. Getting sniped over, but the revives actually came through. Still, even Exponential going down himself for Hardfind, going down. The revive for him came through too. The issue was they used so many shields, so many mats to be able to box up and get these heals, these revives, that they had to actually all in to see if they could get their game going past this point to get all those shields back. That all in did not work. They went broke at the bank. Astro goes down, then Mexi, then Hardfind. In that game, they were taken out. Moving forward, though, a person who did win up that last game, I wanted to break down a little bit as to how Thomas HD did this. Sundown called it. He had that one shockwave. He pops a few bandages in the clutch, which you don't usually see, but finally it happens. Gets the pump, and once again plays the heal game, which is so smart. Playing for those siphons, playing literally stats and numbers to clutch up and win the game.
And one thing that we didn't see in those replays that was a really critical turning point for him was the fact that when he pumped Rotary, there was 23 alive. 23 alive at that point. This is huge. He played solo the entire endgame, which obviously we saw, but if he did not get that elimination on Rotary, that's it. Those points are all gone, and he goes down at 20th.
The stuff that he synced up as well was so cool because he used bouncers to just kind of, traverse the whole low ground. The biggest issue with low ground being there's so many angles, but if you're moving fast, it's great. And then he was playing box to box so well. He was playing long range angles so well too. So this is not a jack of all trades. I would say a king, an ace maybe, of every trade in existence of Fortnite, because that game paired with the one yesterday, exceptional.
We'll have to see if they can keep that momentum going into the last 3 games. But guys, for now, we're going to a break. When we return, we'll have more action from the FNCS. Stay tuned. What's up, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. If you missed that last game, we are still reeling from Thomas HD going on a solo run to clutch up a victory royale for his trio. It was absolutely insane. If there is one game you go back and watch, make sure it is that last game. Now, of course, with that being said, we still have 3 games left to go here in EU before we can crown the first 15 teams that are pushing on to heats later on in the competition. Shy Wager, Reese, I'm sure you guys are excited. That last game, I mean, Thomas, bringing the heat.
After that last game, maybe renaming everything to FNTH might be the way, just for Thomas himself. Because it just, as once again, encompassed everything about Fortnite Endgame, about just Fortnite, about how everything is possible when you're playing. So it was insane to watch, Reese.
I know, and what's great is Thomas HD has been a fantastic solo player through nearly all of the seasons, nearly all the metas, Cash Cups, Solo FNCS, Solo FNCS Invitational, and he's put all of that use right here.
Man, so good. Mad props to Thomas. But guys, the ball must continue rolling. We're getting ready to get into game number 4 on the day. Sancho, Sundown, take us in.
And here we go. Thank you, Zeke. Game 4. It's going to be awesome, and it's already happening. The break is over, and now we're going back into the fray here. Thomas HD might as well just change his name to Thomas 4K if he's going to come out the gate like that, laying down some fire. And this is Thomas HD, the heroic moment that he had there. Unbelievable. And what a awesome way. I just love the kind of the social tweet that we had there where he started literally sitting on 16 HP and able to close out the door with 5 elims and the victory royale. And that's what makes trios so cool, Sundown, where one person can do that.
One person able to rule them all right there, and it was Thomas HD sitting up in his high tower. But we're going to switch on over to another perilous place. It's Doom's Domain, where, again, 2 of the top trios are just battling it out in what can only be described as an utter clown fiesta, as Rezon will get Lechi. Aqua going to go down. In return, all the crash pads being used, all the utility, because that's all that matters. However, on the other side, we talk about doing it all for his team. You can see Thomas executing on a down up there, trying to keep the hope and dream alive by putting an awesome flick effectively into his backpack right now, as Reason puts Benji back into the lobby, picks up his second elimination right now, and honestly, it's an absolute cluster over at Doom's Domain now, as a third team has now joined the fray, with Joel, Fort Venti, and Day all popping in to say hello.
And the most interesting thing is that the battle for Doom's Domain, it seems as though it's going towards Noah, Rezon, and Aqua. I haven't seen Benji, Lechi, and Savage kind of take that away or have a moment where they could just say, you know, put it in question. And already, this is only week 1. We still have a whole month. And if Benji, Lechi, and Savage don't qualify here, there's going to be a big question mark for them to answer is, do we continue to try to alpha or contest the spot? Because if Noah Riley and his team continues on, they're going to have the ability to kind of flex it as much as possible, to experiment, to put in all those theory points to see what they can do, as Savage was the only one standing up, and it looks like the third party from Joel comes in and cleans that up there, Sundown.
Yeah, but let's be honest. I was really ready to give up on my prediction for Noah Riley, Rezon, and Aqua yesterday after seeing the performance. I didn't think they would be able to come back and kind of turn around Dooms as strong as they were able to today. I'm of the opinion that the line, well, one, if you're going to go on Twitter, claim your drop spot, and then also circle exactly what spot of the place you're dropping on and which chest you're going for, you better be able to defend it. And you better not complain once if somebody comes in and has a game plan and tries to out 50-50 and fight you. Because if you're going to tell them exactly what you're doing every single time and where to find the 2v1s and where to find those isolated members, and you're not good enough to defend it, then you deserve to lose that drop spot. Straight up. However, if you're contesting a team back and forth and you're going relatively evenly, I think over the course of the weeks, it's worth it to get the spot consistently enough to challenge to, because eventually one of the weeks that team won't be there, or you'll win it enough where you'll get the qualification spot. And even if not, you're going to be able to qualify through on consistency, just because we've seen if you're able to get one of these mythic points and get control of this bomb that Noah Riley is able to press forward here and get the eliminations that come with alphaing up this spot, you'll have enough points to go through. However, as we saw in OCE, there can be times where if you're losing a spot so bad, you don't actually get to play in the FNCS for the first 8 or 9 matches, which is effectively what happened at Dooms when the Twins and Volks just absolutely forced Fresh, Squeaks, and Carry On away and made them go over to Slurpee Swamp. Then that's when you kind of have to reevaluate. If you're not actually in the same conversation as the people you're contesting, then you need to go somewhere else and you need to figure out a better game plan and find a trio that you match up more effectively against. However, if you're able to take away the spot a couple of times and you feel confident there, as we saw Mariah, Lindeff, and Jaspe do, and then all of a sudden you have the option of going there and contesting or going back to where you were successful before, which I think over the course of these 12-game setups is going to end up being infinitely more valuable than just being able to alpha up one spot.
We're going to go ahead and take a replay very shortly. Well, when that gets kind of in the way in there for a bit, once we get it ready to roll out the gate. It wasn't ready yet. It needs some more time to cook. We were just taking a look at the oven, taking a peek at it. But so much fireworks are happening in Doom's domain. So much action is happening. It's one of the hottest spots in terms of lethality that's happening out there. So much eliminations are going back and forth. And again, it's you know, Fortnite's one of those games in terms of the esports scene where people are, you know, have this social media presence of putting clips out there. You know, no doubt people are saying clip it, send it over to them, tag that person. There's no other pressure in kind of esports where you could have this, you know, this friendly banter going back and forth. And that kind of play is, you know, the people like the Zates in the world could kind of get into the mental of a top tier elite players. And we're seeing players kind of like not necessarily respect the game so much if someone's kind of taking over that spot, but realizing how dangerous it is to continue that. And you don't necessarily could ruin your entire run here, but I don't know. I hate saying the word throw, but sometimes I can't find another word at the moment to express it.
I think it's less of a throw and more, I don't want to say you have to take a more analytical approach because, again, that's a little bit of a meme, but I think taking a step back and realizing what your trio does well, there aren't actually, I think, a lot of elite trios that excel at taking early game fights. When I say early game, I mean when you have less than a shotgun AR combo in full shields. People who are used to and comfortable at fighting with that 100 HP mark with whatever weapon is given to them. I would say there's only really 3 or 4 teams in each region who I could point out as saying, like, yeah, they're going to take those fights. More often than not, players want to get settled, want to get into the mid game, want to get on those rotations. And I think that you need to find a way to do that more effectively based off of how you're dropping, which is why I liked what they were doing before, where they were gauging whether or not they could fight the vault and then going over to Coral. However, they needed to be doing that yesterday before 4 teams realized that nobody was up in Coral, and then everyone decided to go over there.
Now we're seeing a team that was highlighted by our analyst desk of Reese and Shire Wager, Astromex and Hardfine, currently sitting at 5th place here with a total of 118 points. This is day 2. They got 31 points right now, so they're looking very, very strong with an average placement at least around 10th place. And that average placement is going to be very vital, considering that is why they're in the 5th place. They have 34 elims total, averaging about 3.7 elims per game. We saw Thomas HG getting 5 by himself, but Noah had left the door open a little bit. They got to be careful here, Sundown. Noah takes some beams, and now he has to wait right here, and a gatekeeping situation is unfolding.
Haven't you ever heard of closing the door? Oh, God, need to make sure he closes that one up. Otherwise, it's going to ruin more than just a wedding here. This is a key game where they need to combo through, and Noah Riley instead going to use the aggro shockwave to go straight into Letwick's box, clean that one up, and get the siphon. Raisin was converted on, however, 6 points already coming through, but we've talked about it time and time again. The biggest detracting factor is getting taken down outside of the placement threshold, and Noah says, well, I'm going to try and take it down and equalize again. Horizontal shockwave coming through, but not quite able to convert on it. What does Jamside opt to do? We've seen so many times that his team has done a good job of playing spoiler and picking up key eliminations in the mid game, and right now he has 2 shockwaves, so if he decides to go aggressive, he could get in the back of a box, and as I say that, he picks up Aqua right on the other side as they get a little help from a third party, Maida and Co. end up getting Noah Riley, and they're going to walk away from that as the Doom's Domain team. I mean, adding a third team to that mix makes it that much harder to exit out. We saw them storm fighting, and they're going to get cleaned up on the edge and are no longer in this competition.
Jamside and Hellraiser survived right there. They survived that panic at the disco that was happening. Oh my goodness, I can't believe Doom's Domain squad's going down, and Sundown, your pick, started off very hot. I mean, I think they're having that free Doom's Domain that's given them very high placements, but I'm just not sure what happened there. I mean, sometimes the confidence of having that Doom's the mystical bomb and all that kind of bite you there at the end. But, we still have a couple more games here. We're in Game 4. We still got 2 more to go. This is the first week of the FNCS Trios. All month, we're going to bring you all the action, so don't worry. But someone that's been bringing all the action, having more than 5+ elims is Nako, Floki, and Clement, who have been landing at Misty Meadows, have been doing really well. And we've already been seeing in day 2, Sundown, finding those early engagements and doing really well at closing it out very quickly and not getting caught in the third-party situation.
Yeah, this is another one of those teams who's actually been really good at executing on those early and mid-game fight. Again, another one of those full French trios. Floki playing for Solari, and you have Nakors and Clement both representing Rams. But the benefit is, and we've talked about it, using their utility at the correct timing. We've seen them do this a number of times. They like to opt for the lower crash pads and dropping players down, throwing that one at the bottom. However, not quite able to convert on that, which was a little surprising to me. It seemed like they had the opportunity, but hesitated for a second. The other team able to pull their ally back. I think that it was either a quick harpoon or they did the pickup carry. But right now, Sype will be looking to get that revive on the other side. You'll see them trying to rotate and get a better angle, but there are 4 teams directly stacked on top of each other here. 1 being a duo, 3 being complete trios who are all hip to hip in the same box. So the situations are going to get a little awkward as the storm starts moving.
Thinking about trios making rotations, we're seeing Jachu advise and Paco right now. Now they have to make a major rotations at the first half in and half out. 5th zone gives them a max pull. So you're looking on the bottom right of the mini-map here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You're seeing that pull. It's going to go very far. And Sundown, they have no mobility so far in Jachu. So they're going to have to figure it out. And in previous iterations of Fortnite competitive, you had a launch pad to bail you out. You could have community launch pads to bail you out. But that is not the case. And this is going to be a long trek here for them. So I think what they're doing right now is trying to get everybody to stop looking at them for a brief moment, get a crack, something to happen so they can make this rotation. But we've been seeing stubborn teams hold the line down as down glows Florini, so that might be an opportunity to just get out of dodge. And there they go. Someone had the utility. The mega bounce goes out, but it looks like the Travis Scott was not an astronomical launch right there, and they got to run on foot.
Yeah, and also while all of that was going on, Vettel got downed, picked up, downed again. iDrop also got down. So our number 1 team under pressure and potentially not making placement points for the second game in a row, where at least every other time they've gotten 1 point. Last game was the first time they had dropped out. Now under the pressure again there, but it looked like they might have been able to escape it as none of them have been confirmed. Still 53 players remaining, 21 trios left. Right now, Rotary will get confirmed over. Kiriachi try to be the playmaker as Stormy Right gets taken down, and unfortunately, they are going to fall there. Just ticked right on over. Actually, that might have been Storm Surge that ended up taking them out, because no one got the credit for that elimination going over, and Storm Surge did just turn off. So, unfortunate they're unable to really find the damage they needed to find to get taken out. And right now, you can see Sammy has control of the high ground, but probably not going to be maintaining it. So we need to keep an eye on who ends up making their push forward for it towards the end.
And while we're seeing everybody was kind of jockeying for position on top of the mountain, that north side, the elevation. But now the Storm decides in zone 6 to kind of push on down south. And already you're looking forward. There's so many builds on there. And the Become Legend Slicks, down he goes. So Sammy right now doing it all by himself. Maybe could have a repeat performance here, what Thomas HD did. A repeat performance of what Benji did in the opens, where he was able to clutch with 10 HP on the low ground. But we're seeing no one really has a strong position right now. No one's really playing for height because zone pull so down south, and you're not going to have the Mets to expect that. So you're going to have the mobility to kind of go down. But we're sticking with Sammy's story. We're sticking with his ride. Can he have that finish that we're all expecting? You have to clutch out. Dennis and Kui are no doubt cheering on their teammate as he sneaks right in, ejects himself into a tarp and does get a big hit, but it was not enough. Didn't get a clean hit, just grazed the chin right there. And Sammy's in danger here, Sundown, of going down.
God, that feels absolutely awful to make the play, sneak in the backside of the tarp, nobody sees you, you fire off that epic pump, and then you hit for a nice 30 headshot coming through there. That's one pellet catching the side. His aim, not true when the solo needed the most, going down outside of the placement threshold as well. That will give us our top 17, and right now we have Anas up on high ground with, I believe, Thomas HD with him. We saw Flick go down early, but the duo still making it work and still plenty of control coming through as we hop on board here with Lanouf, Moraine, and Jaspe. They use their crash pads and utility to get to the front side of the zone.
And at height, we saw Thomas. Oh my good, Lunef right now gaining Train Hards, Amplify, and down goes that trio. But we saw Thomas HD and Anas at height. They're kind of exhausting a lot of materials considering that the elevation dropped really, really low. So up height, it is that trio. Moraine on the right side of your box is doing really strong here on a mid-layer tarp. You're seeing Jachu going on the low ground. So now you have your 3 layers, and we're going to see this stretch, let's say, cake. Let's see if it doesn't get smushed as height is being contested by Jaspe, Moraine, and Lunef, and now they have height, Sundown.
They're going to be able to take it away, utilizing those late shockwaves. We talked about it. If it's just a duo on height and they have late utility, they'll be able to force it out. It's some gamma on gamma crime going on over there, but all the action on the low ground right now. Jachu getting one and converting. We talk about players being hip to hip on the low ground and staying in a box. If you happen to walk into the wrong area, the 3 of them will chew you up. They'll put you in the blender, as the Fortnite community likes to say, and you'll go straight back to the lobby, and that's where we see so many eliminations. Jachu in the bottom right, Moraine in the top right. We're closing in on our top 10, and it's mostly duos holding hands with a couple trios on the low ground.
And the trio that has a strong position is Moraine right now. And what an unbelievable use of mobility to take over. Jachu sitting right down, looking for that Travi Patty, looking for that fish burger. They're trying to move on to get it. Jachu gets hit. Now Jachu has to retreat back to his trio. And now it's an opportunity to try to hold on as much as possible because every placement point matters. So you just hold on tight and make sure, because Moraine is at height, raining down the beams as Shio, the detective, pointed out. The beam play is going to be strong, and this is going to pull back. So that means Moraine, Lunef, and Jaspe have a strong opportunity to hold on to that, and their height stamina is going to be so strong to close out this game here, Sundown.
Yeah, but I also want to keep an eye on Clement right now. Clement was pushing in towards the top 3, and he's still walking around on that mid-ground tarp, just able to pick up it down on Akusto, but Akusto will finally get the turnover. He goes down in 4th, as now we have our top 2, Lanouf, Moraine, and Jaspe, trying to close it out from the high ground, have shockwaves, have a 3v2. This should just be clinical, as they're going to be the ones who will take away match number 10 overall, game number 4 here. Shockwave to go out to close the gap, hunt down the last player there, but maybe a moment of drama as Cammy is able to get the down, however, won't quite convert. Now it's a 1v2, but where's the last player? He'll finally be ticked over.
Yes, Lunef, Moraine, and Jaspe get the victory royale. The team that was sitting in 11th place with a big-time victory royale, able to vault their way, hopefully closer and closer to top 5. But we still have a couple more games left, and that was just game 4. But look at all those builds as we're moving on to the beautiful faces of me, Sancho West, and Sundown, calling all the action right here. But Sundown, I mean, that was one of the very textbook finish right there, holding on at the very last second, using mobility, taking height, and then beaming on down for the victory.
Well, and it's showing the key of being able to keep your trio up and knowing when to execute on that push. You saw them take the high ground away. But for the second game in a row, we've seen our top trio go down and not really able to make it into kind of that top 10, top 7 area where they've been so accustomed to. So again, what does that mean for the leaderboard? It's going to whoop. And with just 2 games left, realistically, there's an opportunity for some heroics.
All right, let's go to our heroes of the cast and kick it over to our analyst desk.
Man, you gotta love these 2, and you gotta love the technical term. Whoop! There you go. As technical as one can be. Now, again, massive props to Lanouf and their trio like Sancho said, they were in that 11th place spot. And now with this awesome, incredible game, they're able to continue pushing that momentum forward and just cement themselves. And as we take a look at the settings, we'll see how all of these teams are kind of starting to round out with only 2 games left. It is do or die time. They have to be looking at what they can do if you're on the outside of top 15. What do we need to change up to earn these points? If you're inside 15, you're like, what do we have to do to either stay at the top or stay just inside of the bubble? Taking a look at the breakdown, Floki, Clement, they're coming in now first. Sundown pointed this out to us, Shy. Vettel, iDrop, and Stursix, they just keep falling at just the kind of worst time for them.
It's a marathon, and maybe they already had their first 2 sprints. The third one might not have enough juice in the tank to push forward. Maybe other people are learning a bit more. But Nakazor had one of those wins earlier on in day number 1. Now in day number 2,
Seems
it was
like
actually
Shai
games
has
5
been
and 6.
completely speechless over these leaderboards. But, as we can see, still top place, completely dominant. My pick, Kizix, Forziar, and Nate down in 4th. They're doing still really, really good. Game 5, they had 11 eliminations. Really, really popping off.
Absolutely. And taking a look, we do see that team in 5th. We did talk about them, and they're still holding on. 136 points up in that number 5 spot. Now, Freeze, Kizix, Forziar, Nate, they're still here. But, I mean, they've been overtaken by Sancho's prediction team. Now, Lanouf, after that game, Moraine, Jaspe, 130 points. They're jumping all the way up to 7th.
And it was a big, big game. Huge for them. Huge for them. 2K early, and they beat Mongols team off spawn. If anyone noticed that, Mongols team were not in that early game at all, right? Not in that early game at all, because they got taken out. You saw everyone landing on that chest as they're doing every single game, but this time Jaspe's team came out on top and managed to pull off the victory royale because of it.
Yeah, and you got to remember the 2 different storylines we basically have. We've been focusing a lot on the top 5, but the top 15 is also a big focus because you have to hit the top 15 to make it to heats. That's what this entire 2-day format has been about. So people like Mido, Kiriachi, Browner, these guys who've been here, I think, the whole time sitting between 16th to 20th, they just have 2 more tries to break into that threshold. It'll be very crucial. We'll have to start all over again in next week's qualifiers.
And, you know, some of that is like, yeah, it's true. But I think what's cool is you can take these first 2 days of competition and translate that into next week, right? What did we do right? What did we do wrong? We need to improve. And it's not over. We still have 2 shots to try again, right?
Yeah. Also, there's series points, right? So even getting a 16th place finish in round number 3, that is huge. You do that every week. I guarantee that you will be there. Hopefully, 99%, because I don't want to get quoted on it if it doesn't happen. But, you know, you'll be there. So that I hope that these guys stay consistent because, you know, finishing top 20, very impressive.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I think what we need to do is get a temp check. So, Reese, let's throw it on over to you.
Well, we've got Stormy Wright's team landing down in Slurpy Swamps. Now, these teams were around the 15th point. These guys were around the threshold for not qualifying. So are they going to be able to pull off these big plays in this game?
I think so, 100%. But there were issues, at least in these few games, getting a little bit of placement, not the most. Benji Fish's team as well. There was an insane storm fight in that last game against the Rezons. And these guys in total, yeah, they're in that top portion of the top 15, or like, you know, in it in a sense. But the issue is if the next 2 games don't go one of these teams' way really, really well, or they don't even get a single elimination, they might teeter out and fall out of that top 15.
Indeed, on the first day, they ended up fighting and contesting off spawn at Dooms every single day. But in the previous few games, they've actually ended up disconnecting and just getting away from that spawn, being completely away from the other team. This game, they decided, let's go back in and fight, and it didn't end up working for them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if disengaging is going to be the wave anymore, though, because if everything comes down to the line, you got to remember there's so many teams, not just Rezon, not just Noah Riley, who are behind Benji Savage and Lechi that can take over from other POIs. So you have to be able to do something. Sammy here as well with huge plays. He's also trying to stay within that threshold, get close. You know, no matter where you're going to be dropping on this map, you have a team you're going to be fighting in front of you. You have about 32 other teams on the leaderboard you have to keep in mind and keep account of.
Right, and on top of that, you've got to think, these 3 teams that we just looked at were on the threshold to do that. None of them made a particularly big game, right? None of them were able to kind of capitalize on those points they needed to. So, they're going to have 2 more games to do it. Are they going to be able to clutch, or are they not?
that's the question on everyone's mind, right? Is like, if this is it, what do we need to do? I think for a lot of these trios, it's like if you're landing on a contested spot and it's not working, maybe now is that time to just switch it up, right? Or even just get out. Like, a lot of these players, don't forget, they've placed through round 1, through round 2, and now they're here in round 3, so they have the instincts. They just have to get there. Guys, it's time to go into game number 5 here in the FNCS. So let's send it back to the casters to give us that bird's eye view.
And what a view it is, Zeke. We're talking about so much awesome action happening here. We got 2 games left. Sundown, I can't believe the awesome fireworks that we're watching right here from the EU region. We're seeing some signature performances, some awesome victory royales, and I just can't believe it. This is literally week 1 of FNCS Trios. We got a whole much mess of a month here to look forward to.
An entire month, and don't forget we have NA East after this. I'm Sundown. That was Sancho who just welcomed you in. This is match number 11. We'll have one more after this, and that will be the entirety of the 12 for week number 1 in EU. This is FNCS Chapter 2, Season number 4, and we're going to hop right back on over to the party that's going on at Doom's Domain. Noah Riley, Aqua, and Rezon have had the better of it today, but last game, nobody really got the better of this, with 3 teams all trying to dive in on the vault, and in the end, all of them falling way outside of placement threshold.
And this is going to be like a traditional box fight that you're seeing down here. You're going to see the team that hits the vault first kind of set up a lot of real estate, throw down a lot of mats as possible, so it would discourage a team like a Noah or Aqua to get in there. But there is porta forts, or porta, like, tunnels, so to speak, in the porta potties. They could kind of portal their way into the vault, and they could kind of try to stop somebody who is on the back foot inside. So there's a lot of cheeky strats they can do, a lot of tricky splits, as you can hear it. Here it is, an opportunity to kind of get this one. 89 right there for Noah Riley, and yes, he caught the escape right there from Benji. Already Benji trying to escape in a car, trying to escape through that portal. Doesn't matter, he gets caught right there, but Noah Riley gets caught himself, as Lecce says, backs up his man. It says, you stay away. So now it's an opportunity for, actually that was Savage who does that, and Savage gets the revive, but you're talked about it, Sundown. It is about being hip to hip. If they were hip to hip, that would not have happened. Catching someone by themselves, isolation, is a key grab for trios contesting in power POIs.
Yeah, and it's super unfortunate that he actually mistimed the charged shotgun there and mispositioned. If he stood a little bit farther forward, there's a time where your animation lock coming out of that porta potty, and you're not actually able to throw down a build, but because he was standing far enough back and waited, he was able to throw out the ramp. That gave him enough time to let Savage know he's in danger. Savage follows up and comes through, and while Noah's unable to confirm the elimination, Savage then gets the siphon, gets the additional 15 builds, which is huge in the early game, and then on top of that is able to get Benji back up and turn it into the 2v1 that they need. But now over on board here, Marine and Jaspe, they're up. Jaspe sitting on 1 elimination, indicating that it's likely a 2v2 here with, well, you can guess the other Stark team. It's Mongro, Mitro, and Tayson. Don't know which one of them went down. Generally it's Tayson who's taking that first contestant fight, so odds are good that it's Mongro and Mitro here, but could be any of the 2 out of 3. Marine in a good spot, though, with that pump and the Stark rifle.
We're seeing the difference of NA East and EU. In EU, they usually hit that guaranteed chest here in the main building. People like Booga, Jamper, and Avery, who are coming up very next, tend to split and hit Hanger. And as you're seeing right there, Mitro whiplash his way, and Tony Stark's whip gets to the vault as much as possible. That's going to give the signal to Jaspe and Marine that there's someone trying to leave. And I think right here, Mitro's trying to go for that sneaky reboot. He's going to try to risk it for the biscuit. And the biscuit is going to cause him to be a little bit tough to digest, as Jaspe is just right there to kind of punish that epic play and punish again. And now it is, I think, Mongrel all lonesome right now, watching this fight from a distance like Squidward looking through the vents as he's seeing Jaspe and Marine running away with this one.
All right, well, he's not looking through the vents anymore. Hits the booster, says, don't you know who I am? Gets a little bit of damage going through, tries to follow up with the pump. Mongrel is just saying, this is my drop spot. Don't care how many times we have to fight over it. 137 gets the immediate swap. That's something he does better than almost any other player in the game. And however, it's not going to be enough Jaspe closes that fight out. However, you have another party coming in to try and get a piece of that action, and that will be the French crew. Airwalks, Vato, and Leo coming through. Jaspe trying to get in the whiplash and get back over to the vault, but the shots are coming over. Just the harassment, and you want to get away from this situation. However, another team closing in, and we talk about it. You get to these final games, these mythic POIs, and the danger of relying on dropping here and relying on this consistent loot and saying, hey, this is my spot. Everyone knows where to come find you. Iron Man getting in on a piece of the action. Don't want any of that 90 damage that ends up coming through all of the builds. Those blasters hurt. He's got those things refined. We've seen a number of players go down to that one. Shout out Lumen. And now we're going to swing on over to the Steamy Stacks fight.
Man, I was just watching that fight break out. I was like, Tony Stark, Iron Man is still vibing with his repulsor blasters and his unibeam. He was doing so much damage, and Airwalk kind of ate a 90 as Mona puts a big-time hit on Toos. And Toos is one of those kind of teams, you know, this is another congestion in the EU area. This spot right here, this POI Steamy Stacks, has produced so many solo champions, and a lot of the analysts out there in the Twitterverse, and I know Shayo and Reese were kind of looking at Steamy Stacks because there's some reason champions are birthed from here. They come out of the goo, that purple goo from maybe Kevin. The spirit of Kevin just gives the power to anybody that lands in Steamy Stacks, and we're seeing Mona right now and Hurley trying to find that Kevin power within. This is the first time they're making it this far. So no matter what, they are already winning, and they could take this experience and build on top of that. And we're going to see some new names throughout the entire FNCS trios, some new names pop out and capitalize on that.
And realistically, too, coming to this match, they're at 62 points. They're in 21st place. But if they're able to win a couple fights here and get some placement, there's still 2 games left. They're a team that could realistically qualify through for heats in their first ever performance if they're able to have 2 solid games put together. And that's why I kind of don't buy, like, yes, if you're all the way down in kind of the 27th to 33rd range, it's going to take you to win 2 games in a row, which, while we're saying it's possible, we've seen if you're not necessarily in the groove, in the rhythm, particularly with trios, it's really hard. But for all those teams who are kind of in the 21 to 25, 26 range, you're still very much so in the running for a top 15 shot, even with 2 games left. All that is a top 5 with a couple of eliminations, which every single one of these teams, if they can get the right start and get away from the initial chaos of the early game that so often happens in EU, they're all capable of getting to mid-game, rotating late, and finding placements. We've seen everybody, almost every single one of these teams, sneak at least one player into deep placements. So if they're able to convert on this opportunity, that would be an incredible job. And they're being really aggressive here, and they find Tez finally able to close out that fight. Now they'll be able to get whatever loot they want, finish up the mats, and while normally I'd advocate for hitting the Stevie and taking a long glide, because the zone is right there, they'll probably just path right on into it.
Great 2 trios absorbed by Mona. The primordial goop of Kevin is within. The power is strong. And we're seeing right now, like, just to give you an example, big names that are in danger of not qualifying here in week 1. Kariachi, Rotary, Stormy Right, on the bubble. Benji, Mr. Savage, Alechi, on the bubble. Toos, Browner, Tomsy, who are competing there at that Steamy Stacks, on the bubble. Erikin, Pickus, Yzip, on the bubble. So that is what they're looking at right here. But you're right. You know, even you could get the home run, that 25 points victory royale. That'd be awesome. But getting those singles, doubles, or triple plays, you know, will set you up and get those runs in. If you want to talk about baseball, that's happening right there. You know, setting up the play. It's all about the details that get you that score, that get you that bucket, that get you that end zone. It's Sunday here in the States. I know North American football is a thing here as big time as we're broadcasting here. But, hey, it's all about getting it in. And those field goals, they all add up for the score.
Excuse me, Sancho, this is
Yes.
Europe. We watch real football
I
around
know.
here, which, while it's the weekend, we're on international break for the EPL.
Right.
I think there's some other leagues going on right now, but with international break, most of the major European leagues don't necessarily
right.
have games going on. So we can devolve back down to the, I will say, inferior football, but that's probably going to get me some looks as we hop on board, which had previously been, I don't want to say wire-to-wire leader, but wire-to-wire most consistent team doing their best Evil Knievel impression, not quite making the canyon. They obviously didn't sing the right Rush lyrics at the key time, but right now we can see Benji over in that Doom's Domain fight still not getting a resolution, and we've talked about it. If you can't resolve these fights quickly, then it's not really going to be beneficial to anybody. However, he has the shockwaves, he has the bomb. If they can get out of dodge, then they'll be in an okay situation, and I say okay because, well, he only has 7 builds.
Yeah, and it looks like the Marshals here to wrangle up these desperados right now as Benji's in a desperate situation. Does pick up a beam on Aqua there. That's a big time. That's why Height's so strong. You get that multiplier when you get the headshot. Benji now completely out of builds. He's going to have to work his way. He does have a shockwave, but you know it hurts him every single time he uses it. Down goes the mystical bomb, which is going to create some fire area of effect, and all the fire is going to catch as he does get a white tag right now, but he just cannot just get in. And you're seeing some people looking into this fight as Rezun goes down, and that's going to be only one that's going to be up, and that's Noah Riley. But the third party is looming in the distance. You can see it as they're swarming on through. So this fight, yes, they're going to be able to kind of get an opportunity. And yes, here's the third party already here, putting a plate down and looking for some scraps. And Benji has to scrap on out of there and retreat. But that leaves Savage behind. And oh no, Savage might be in trouble here, Sundown.
Savage is in more than trouble. Noah's camping out on the side. We've seen Jamside play Hunter a number of times. Instead, going to hop straight into the shortcut, get out to the porta potty. Now, when he needs to turn, he needs to camp that right away. Instead, going to opt to pop the minis. And they're actually saved by the fact that a 5th team came over the hill right at the edge. Those were the Stallions that they needed. The Riders right at the top. But no, he was too greedy. He only had the single build from hitting the tree. Took a little bit too long to get over there and was ended up getting cleaned up. Couldn't get back over to Benji. And we talk about this mythic POIs just devolving down. That's what happens. Everyone, plus their mother, their sister, that second cousin that you see on Thanksgiving but don't really want to see, plus all of their nieces and nephews, and especially the one that just asks you if you have games on your phone the entire time and burns the entire battery. They're all coming to the mythic POI. There's 2 games left. They have nothing else to lose. In their head, they think we need shockwaves, we need mythics, but in the reality, when everyone goes there, everyone loses because there's not enough to support the 5 or 6 different teams, as Swag doing his best to hold off the Russian trio of Rotary, Stormy Right, and Kiriachi on the side. Kiriachi getting a piece of it with the rifle fire there, trying to get some coverage down, but again, regardless of what happens here, everybody is posted up on the edge of the zone, just firing shots back that way.
You mentioned the North American holiday at Thanksgiving, but over there on the EU side of things, it's Boxing Day, and look at all the boxing that is happening here. I know it's a much more joyous and jovial holiday, but here in Fortnite, you see nothing but box fights all going out right now, and it is going to be so vital for here, because we're talking about it. Let me give you a number here, Sundown. 20 points. That's how many points Benji's squad is out from the top 15. 20 points separates that squad from qualifying, and having the struggles that they're having at the wrong time is going to be a big factor if they do not qual. And yes, there's plenty of time to do that. And yes, they could rely on serious points as well. It's another way into the dance, but you know that the pride and that all their fans out there throughout the world want to see them qual, and they want to see them place at least into week 1. So you're seeing all these riders of the storm right now coming in late into the safe zone are putting some big time pressure, and Benji Fishy is now on by himself, and he has to do his best. And no, Kiriachi does pick up a nice elim right there, so that's going to give an opportunity for Benji and Kiriachi, both on separate trios here, a moment to breathe as a full trio is pushing into this house.
You can see him. He sees that the bomb is down there. However, as a solo, I think your priority on that mystical bomb really drops, because you have to kind of expose yourself to use it. Instead, trying to just bait it a little bit, knowing that the players want to come forward towards that shiny object. However, kind of whiffs the pump shot there, only really catching the side of the pellets, despite it being a headshot, not getting the damage you need. And with the storm closing in again and him out of white HP, he's going to let this team rotate past. However, he's in a really bad spot. He desperately needs to get one of these siphons. Otherwise, the storm is going to end up taking him over, or at best, he's going to get gate kept right on the outside, because these are all the teams who have already posted up inside the zone.
In Kiriachi's squad, just to give you guys an idea, is 17th place right now. So only 2 points going into this match away from 15th place. There is a two-way tie from Sip Dazin, Akusto, tied with Mythic, Tony, and Mido, who are at 82 points apiece. So just keeping that in mind. The score that you see is the day 2, and we're keeping a track on the accumulative leaderboards for you, and it's going to be a great finish. We got 2 games left. This is 1 out of the 2 going into the final. Again, we've had 12 games of action here leading up, and we're going to do this every weekend. Later on, NA East is going to kind of step up to the plate, but looking at the plate right now on the mini map, you see a lot of water, and that's going to be the puzzle as we see it. It does update, so a little sigh of relief from our competitors, but still, there's a little bit of elevation here, especially the beachfront that to work with. So that is the puzzle that there's going to be facing our competitors right here, Sundown. And what a nice overview, getting the vibe. And there he is, Kiriachi, the lone trio, not afraid to take a fight.
And despite it being EU, it seems like we've had a couple of Lone Ranger-esque scenarios where it's been all about the solo, just doing everything he can. But we talk about doing everything he can. Kiriachi not only needs to find the eliminations here, but he has to go down and get the loot. He has 3 builds, and despite being close to this 4th zone and having the high ground, he has to at least have the builds to create another full box. And that's it. And he's saying, that's all I needed. Goodbye. Just going to dip down right away. Has a truck in a metal box. Is the only one up on this high ground. So all of a sudden, it's not often you're going to say this, but a solo is in a complete and utter power position over about 2 or 3 other trios who are going to be forced to rotate into him. And currently that's the 2nd place team who has dropped outside of placements twice in a row, now rotating directly on top of him. Kiriachi going to opt to land wait, goes for a quick ambush, but instead they're going to drop down on him. Now we're going to hop on board with another person doing their best Western Cowboy cosplay. It's Noah Riley slinking along in the bottom with just 2 builds, a rare shotgun, and a rare AR. The player hops out. We'll wait for the server to catch up, but what will happen to this Wascally Wabbit? And he will get taken down. Very anticlimactic.
Very Elmer Fudd shows up right there and finally catches that Wabbit. And my, oh my, the lone stars right now, Kiriachi, who does have the opportunity to do this. He is a fragger in his own right. Very strong solo player, and he's going to be able to kind of sneak away. As we're looking up the field, Airwalk takes a big elim on Thomas HD, so that is something where we have to keep tabs on as well. Airwalk is kind of heating up the moment. You mentioned the back-to-back Pro-Am champion, who is a big talker in the scene, definitely walking the walk, getting some big elims underneath his belt. It's kind of like putting on a show right now in his own right, and you know he's not going to let that go, Sundown.
And the veteran who has played in so many competitions, whether it's Fortnite or across other games. He is a professional at the utmost level. Also won those promos with RL Grime, who shout out Aerox, probably empowering a bit of him. Everybody knows RL Grime is the king of October with the Halloween remixes. And now Airwalks, who hasn't been playing a ton recently, but really seems to shine through in the solo modes. They're currently sitting at 13th, but Kiriachi's run will finally end. It was a valiant effort, but not able to get the confirmation onto Prago either. He steals 3 extra points for his team, but that will be about it heading into the final game.
Yeah, and again, Kiriachi's squad was at 17th place. That trio just on the outside in the bubble. And that bubble's about to burst for a lot of trios. A lot of heartbreak is going to go in, a lot of hard work. Yeah, on the leaderboards, it'll be all for nothing if you don't qualify, but you could definitely build on that. Teams like Mona, who is the first time being on this level of competitive play, they could definitely use some work here and just get a little bit better. And it's not like crazy. They're not like on the bottom of the board. But like you mentioned earlier on, if you're on the bottom of the board, you have 2 games to do it. Just get to the end game. You get those placements, get a couple elims along the way, because you know that's where those elims are going to come. But right now, Nate, Kezix, 4ZR, the Reese's prediction here has to find a way to turn their fortune and get back and strike the iron when it's hot.
And as opposed to other games, pretty much all of our top 5 are still in this game and still have an opportunity. And with 2 matches left as a viewer, the question is, what do you care about? All of those teams who are in the top 5, realistically, if they're able to push into a 1st or 2nd place performance here with some eliminations, will be in contention for 1st place. So you want to keep an eye on Floki and his squad, iDrop, Vettel, and Sturzix. You want to keep an eye on Flix, Anas, and Thomas HD. We saw Thomas go down, who's largely been the clutch factor there. You want to keep an eye on Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate, and then Exponential, Mexi, and Astro. Exponential being the one on who is hard find. Excuse me. And now the other question is, outside of that, in terms of winning, what is the line for the top 15, aka the automatic qualification for the finals? Right now, the teams who are on qualification pace are averaging just over 8 points a game, which puts us at right around 91 or 92 after we get through this 11th game. Excuse me, just under 8 points.
Absolutely, and teams like Mona, Swag, Miro, Snap, I mean, already Twos, Browner, Tomsy, those are teams that look out for. Tomsy and that trio is out. Urkin, Pickus, and Wyzip, you have to look out for that one. Mythic, Tony, and Mido, Snot, Dazen, and Akusto, who've been doing really well in getting to the in-game situation. And Sammy, Kiri, Dennis, Airwick, Bato, and Leo. Those are the squads that are kind of in danger of falling out because they're not in triple digits right there. Zeke talked about it in the analyst desk portion that, hey, if you're in triple digits, then you could kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and kind of rest. But those other squads are not. They're still in double digits, and there's so many people nipping at their heels, Sundown.
And iDropping Code just had 2 of their players go down outside of the placement threshold yet again. Flick also falling, so we talk about those top 5 teams dropping out right before placement. Again, first placement point comes through in the top 17 trios. We're currently at top 18, so that is awful timing for them in the second to last game. Who will be able to seize the opportunity? Will it be Floki, Clement, and Nakors? And will they get some room? Right now, back on board with the Dutch trio, ADN, Matzo, and Amplify. Looking for a little bit of room on the side. Stursix will go down. Vettel gets the confirmation over. That's our second place team falling with only a pair of placement points to go for him. Nakors, however, the current number 1 team, going down right now and getting knocked there. ADN under some pressure, trying to find a little bit of room. Amplify is going to pick off Hellraiser and give him some more room to work with and create a little bit of space. Kha'Zix is going to turn around and get Hellraiser as well in the top left. Still 14 trios remaining. Make it 13 as he gets ticked over right there. Jamside falling after getting a pair of points for his team.
And you're seeing ADN and Matt. So, wow, ADN doing really great work on the low ground, but they kind of marked Doom's mystical bomb, and I don't think anyone picked it up. It got swallowed up by the storm, so that factor is gone. You see it on the bottom of the screen. That is going to be not a factor going into this in-game, as Pickus, one of those teams on the bubble, does go down. So that's going to be an interesting thing, as now ADN goes down as well. A top 8 team now is out of the running here, and yeah, man, so much could change going into the last and final game here. Matzo is all by himself. Can he pull the Thomas HD? He's going to have to eat some Travi patties as Travis Scott skin. Now he's the Lone Ranger in that fight as well. But at height, it is Reese's pick of 4ZR and Kha'Zix, and they're going to be very strong, and they're going to set up the split here, Sundown.
They're 4th place coming into this game, but right now, Mona, Kirko, and Murrow, the first time appearance in any FNCS grand final, a huge individual effort, and we've talked about the story of individual efforts. Mona, with 5 eliminations, only 4 builds to his name, pushing himself as a solo into the top 7 right now, almost guaranteeing their qualification into heats. When you think about how strong Europe is as a region, that means so much. In trios, honestly, where players think it is the most consistent to come out with such a premier individual performance, and right now he's doing it by just finding gaps in the side. 0 builds to his name. Crash pad forward. He does ongoing aggro. Kuji going down there, finds the 120, but he doesn't get the conversion, and that is massive. Dropping a point there will get him 6, and now we're going to hop on board, become legends on the mid-tarp, and you can see the French trio and Reese's pick up on the high ground.
Something you got to definitely point out is Sammy, who's been having a great individual run on the low ground himself, is picking up some big-time points. But it is the squad coming out of Craigie Cliffs, Larice, Rifle, and Slicks doing really well, building legends at height, and they have an opportunity to get themselves solidified in it. And you know why that top place is very important? Because if you qualify, you have a great chances of being in the grand finals top 10 if you finish number 1 in week 1. And that is what people are playing for, as Slicks, Larice, Rifle are doing really well. They have dominant position, and it is over. That is it. Game 11 here goes to the books, and the build by legends here are building up to a strong finish here in day 2, Sundown.
Trying to cement their name at the top, become legends in EU, rep the org, and do everything they can to finish in the top 15. And right now, we're going to send it back over to the desk. Zeke, Shio, Reese, take us away.
Thank you guys so much. There you have it, the BL team fighting the Victory Royale in game number 5. Almost textbook, right? Like, they made it look so effortless. We've seen all these other games be so ridiculous. And then they're just like, oh yeah, what? Nah, Circle's still going. It's still open. Oh, we won? Oh, cool, guys. Good job. High fives all the way around.
Yeah, it's like an advantage of having height completely is that you get to avoid all that chaos when it comes to low ground. You saw ADN trying to make some moves there. You get to skip all that, drop down pressure, and just accumulate placement so much. And then you really get to think about how that last fight breaks down rather than going from fight to fight. So let's see exactly how that affects overall standings, though.
Oh, boys. We got ourselves a tie here at the top. Floki, Clement, and, oh no, Reese. It's Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate. Oh, Shia Wager. We predicted them to fizzle today, but we may be being proven wrong.
You know who won that last game was Larice. But I'm going to say the real winner is Larice, because I'm always picking those victory royales. This is an easy win for me. They're in second. They're dominating going into the last game. They're gonna pick that first place slot. I'm confident of it.
I think Reese has never been introduced to the effect of the caster/analyst curse. But hey, learning through experience is going to be glorious to watch.
Maybe not.
Past that, 6th to 10th place, Rifleslicks and Larice, all their efforts make them just get completely pushed forward towards just being really safe, not being anywhere near that top 15 anymore. So I feel like they might have enough padding, but look at how the point differential is looking on the right side of your screen. It's getting kind of close, just a 9-point differential from 6th to 10th. From 11th, it's 12 down to 91, a little bit bigger. I feel like being 6th is safe right now, but for these teams, there might be trouble, Reese.
Well, it's interesting. On the other regions that we've seen have all qualified through, the points were a lot higher than it is currently. Obviously, there's only one game left, but there's quite a big drop-off between 13th to 14th, which is interesting to see. That means that any of these teams around that, just under the 15th here, 16th, 17th, these guys are going to need a big game, something like a 10-point game where the guys in 15th get nothing, just to be able to cement themselves into that qualification. So this next game is really, really going to mean everything.
Yeah, the points here, too, aren't that high from 16th all the way to 20th. We see 85 to 67. Yeah, that's almost a 20-point differential, but these guys are tied 2 by 2. I mean, I think Sundown mentioned it before. We're seeing that little whoop effect, but it's kind of a double whoop whoop from, like, you know, 1st to 5th and then 10th to 15th. So if the competition's that whoop close, I feel like it'll be that much more interesting in Game 6. You talk about expectations. I just expect everyone to be on their A game for this next game.
Well, this is it, right? Last chance to try and make that top 15. So the big question is, have the teams at the top cemented themselves? What about the bottom 20? Have they done enough, right?
Well, we're going in with our game winner, which is Larice Slicks, the BL trio, managing to take height with a beautiful shockwave play. You can see it's getting a bit low, picking up those heals straight away. The guy on maximum height here has all of the white heals.
Yeah, and to answer that question that Zeke posed out, this is one of the ways that a team kind of at top 15 can say they've done enough for game number 5, right? Getting forward, making sure you have padding for game 6. They played height. They took risks now rather than leaving it to the last possible moment, rather than leaving it to all the way to game 6. So I think BL have done enough. You got to remember that is one of 33 trios. So have the top 5, you know, teams like Grizzy, done enough to, you know, get there. It's a tiebreaker 100% and stay as winners. Have the top 15 done enough to push themselves away from 16th to 20th, make that point gap high, because if not, game 6 is going to spell a lot of trouble.
And I mean, we could see something disastrous happen, right? We've seen it before, the number 1 team falling outside of placements, outside of elimination points. Literally anything can happen, right? And even teams on the outside of the top 15, they could have this game. They could get the victory out, the 25 points that will just shake up the standings. Anything can happen. 1 game left. Boys, this is it. And this is only week 1, by the way. This is only the first set of games. We have a whole month of this coming up. I mean, it's been wonderful. Just incredible.
Absolutely has. I just want to see in game 6 which one of those 2 trios might be the ones from the bottom side to, you know, jump up. We saw Mona in that last game perform really well. 51 points in total today, a little bit more after a few placements. But Reese, I mean, are we looking at our top 15 right now? Can anyone really slide in? Are these guys looking like they're playing really well today?
I mean, there's always that opportunity, right? There's always an opportunity for one team just to get a big pop-off game. Any of these people who are currently 16th and below can get a victory royale. That's 25 points. And that's only if they have no eliminations, I'm sure. It's possible if they get no eliminations, but I'm sure they'll do it. So they can be done by any of these teams.
Oh man, this is it. Last game on the day here in week number 1 of the FNCS. Who will walk away the number 1 spot and who will break into top 15 to move on to Heats? Let's send it over to our casters to take us into the last game on the day.
So much, Zeke, and yes, it has become Legends. And this is what we're having here, a finish of a legendary proportions. Game 12. I am Sancho West alongside Sundown, and what a crazy ride we be having here, as they say. And this is going to be one of the endings that we have to keep an eye on. The people on the bubble, we have Arkin, Pickus, Wyzep, Mythic, Tony, Mito, Kirachi, Rotary, Stormy Wright, Kiriki, Mona, Browner, Toos, Tomsy, and Benji, Mr. Savage, and Lecce, all in danger from not qualifying. But someone who is not in danger of not qualifying is Clement. But they have a strong opportunity, Sundown, to get that first place.
Yeah, they're within the top 4 teams, currently sitting at a 94% chance to really take home the title. About 5% then belongs to the 5th place team, and then everyone else is, well, really much on the outside looking in, looking to toss not only a Hail Mary, but whatever other sports analogy or religious thing you need to toss in there to just say you need one heck of a game. But we'll see for the first time in a while, Benji, Savage, and Lecce queenly and succinctly clean up that Doom's Domain fight, fully eliminating that other trio, being the first one who is out. So Raisin, Aqua, and Noah Rila will be completely done with their tournament now.
And you're seeing the format kind of popping up right here, no doubt. We're going to bring you a replay as soon as it's ready, coming out the oven. We're talking about fresh bread type replays. There's the format. Victory Royale, 25 points. Second place, 20 points. Third place, you get 16 points. Anything between 4th and 17th, 1 point will be awarded for you. Each elim is 1 point. And we're seeing that is why placement points are so important right here. They only get doled out to 17th place. And we're seeing that that's basically really close to in-game situations. So you got to do all that you can to stay on your feet into that opportunity. But we're seeing teams like who are on the bubble like Snipe, Dazen, and Akusto kind of taking those early to mid-game fights and being that third-party opportunist, going in there, trying to sneak away some elims and getting disengaging. And they've been getting very lucky, Sundown, of not getting caught with their head in the cookie jar. They've been getting their cookies and bailing right here. But someone that is being the cookie monster is 4ZR, Nate, and Kazakhstan. One thing we got to talk about, in set lobby, Sundown, the point distribution is going to be very limited. There's only so many elims you could get. There's only so many placements you can get. And here is Benji, Lecce, and Mr. Savage trying to get into the fight here, into the top 15. Already so far behind. The chances of qualifying are going to be so low. But someone like Benji is Mr. Clutch, and definitely he can get it done.
Yeah, and this is one of those situations where, yeah, you kind of have to alpha up on Dooms and win the match if you really want to get into that guaranteed top 15. And Benji just putting in work with the burst rifle, the 2-tap coming through, going to be able to pick up Noah Riley there. And honestly, I want to see more of this stuff from Benji, Lecce, and Savage, where they're going aggressive onto the opponents and trying to kind of cycle out those 1v2s and those 1v3s. I think they're the slightly better pair if they go aggressive right away. However, they usually aren't doing that, and that's given Rezon and Co. the opportunity to spread out a little bit more and get control of the vault. However, the 3 points here, we'll see if it's enough to keep them in contention, because again, they're about 25 points off of the pace to qualify right now. That's the victory royale, plus whatever eliminations they can get in. So it would take a whole lot, but they're more than capable of doing it.
And they definitely dropping down that say-so TikTok emote. One of my favorites out of the core right there. And it's just the vibes are there. So you see that they're still vibing. They get a big time. And again, it's always the last envelope that you leave. Game 12, you know, Aqua and Noah Riley have been doing really well. But finally, game 12, it is Benji, Savage, and Lecce able to walk away from that. And now we're on board, flying right over Mongrel here, Tayson and Mitro. And we're taking a look at their elims. They look like they were able to get Jaspe and Marine out of this for a temporary moment. Who knows who is left out of that trio to kind of solo dolo it. And that is the opportunities there. If you at least survive and walk away, you get another chance. And that's why a lot of people out there have been enjoying trios. We've been seeing that chance pay off, getting you those crucial placement points, getting those crucial eliminations, getting those highlight social media plays that Thomas HC has been doing. And those are the things that's really cool about trios, that your ride's not over. You could use the reboot ban. You could come back into the fray. Granted, you'll be in shambles, but you could find something, some leftovers to get you into a better position and ensure that you're going to have a better run here. Again, this is Game 12, ladies and gentlemen, Week 1 of the FNCS Chapter 2 Season 4 Trios Edition. We've been waiting an entire year of Trios competition to return, and it is here, and it is in full force. And we're seeing another team that is on the bubble, basically coming in at 16th before this battle here with a truck rotation, and they got to be careful now. One thing I've noticed here as well, Sundown, Storm Surge, not really a factor here in Dame 2 as much.
Yeah, there's been enough aggression coming through both in kind of the first couple circles off of those initial drop spots, and then also before kind of that fifth circle. Generally, it's kind of the gatekeeping that happens during 3 and 4. But we've also seen teams just pressing fights in the mid game. I don't want to say for no reason, but it feels like kind of just like a skill check, being like, yeah, we can get these guys, when in most circumstances that hasn't really been the case, and it's resulted in a lot of partial trios. If you've noticed that generally towards the end, with the exception of kind of Thomas and his couple of clutches, the games have been closed out by either the full trio on the high ground or a full trio on the low ground, just staying hip to hip. And I think that's having to do a lot with players just getting picked off during the mid game. For right now on board here, Wyzip, Homino, Erkin, Homino, Pickus, Homino being another one of those French orgs. This trio, another full French trio, I believe all of them communicating and utilizing that part of the French community. There's a number of them. I believe we have 4 that are majority French trios who are in this final. There might be a couple more who are like partial splits going through, but they've done a really good job of having consistent games. They haven't had really that kind of signature game, really that top 5 performance, but they've been getting their placements. They haven't been getting knocked out early. I think they can really put that down to this reliable scavenger route that they have. It's one of really the 2 on the map, and they've been able to kind of assert themselves over the course of the game on this.
And we're seeing Days In and Kuso again. I just feel like every time we're tuning into them, Sundown, they're in completely different areas. They're just kind of flexible with their fights, and they're doing their best to kind of close this out as well. They're definitely very comfortable with this Storm fight. We're talking about 12 games across the board. They know their opponents. They know the switches that they've been doing. They can kind of read the chessboard right in front of them. But it's a very important right now in Game 12, the last opportunity to accrue points. And considering this team is literally at 15th place, they have to be careful. And already the disengage has already happened from that team out there. That's Swag, Snap, and Miro, who are in 22nd place. So that is one of those squads. They know that, hey, we need to not mess around. These couple of points are not going to get us into that threshold of the top 15. Let's kind of take a step back. Let's kind of look for more placement points and hopefully that victory royale, because that victory royale definitely will get you into that conversation of best barely squeaking in. And you talking about rats looking for cheese, Sundown, they're going to try to get it as much as possible.
Yeah, and just trying to find whatever resources on the side. Again, we talk about kind of those desperation plays and what you need to do in the final game. And largely it's going to come down to taking these safe rotations, being as safe as possible, and not getting caught. Because if you do get caught on one of these quote-unquote safe rotations, it then automatically flips all the way around, which is why I kind of like to call it like a 90-10 in a lot of circumstances, where 90% of the time, super late Storm rotation, you're not going to run into anybody. You're going to be fine. You'll have enough room. However, the 10% of the times when somebody sees you on that rotation, you are just absolutely have no control anymore. You are completely at the mercy of the other person who is sitting in that zone, and they're able to put the pressure down on you. And right now, Rotary, Stormy Right, and Kiriachi up on the high ground, trying to put a little bit of pressure on this opponent beneath them, and instead going to opt to hit the rift and head center zone. I think actually another team, a team hit it before them, and they wanted to ensure they got the rift and didn't get locked out. That's Advise, Jachu, and Paco, who have been doing that kind of sentinel scavenger rotation, one of the other very few kind of viable scavenger rotations in trios.
And Jatu, Paco, and Advise are that 5% chance of walking away with the #1 spot here in week 1. They have an opportunity to do that, but they definitely have to get the victory royale. Toos right now, Browner and Tomsey are trying to change their stars, and you could go ahead and cue the Duel of Fates right now, because this is going to be an opportunity that if they come out on top here, they'll be able to qualify, but they're going to have a long road ahead of them. But you got to start somewhere. You got to put one foot in front of the other. And Toos, Browner, and Tomsey, who have not had a strong opportunity out of Steamy Stacks, look like they decided to pull down south just a little bit and push the team down in dirty docks, and that might be a fruitful opportunity, because right now this squad going into this fight 20th place with only 67 points, and the team that we saw there that were in that took that riff of Stormy Right, Rotary, and Kiriachi right ahead of them, right behind them actually by a couple of points. So we're seeing the bubble teams kind of dedicatedly, making sure the bubble doesn't burst right now in the early game, Sundown.
Yeah, and a huge shot coming out there with the charge shotgun. Gets the wall replaced, but now you're going to actually see a key weakness of the charge shotgun. In these wall-to-wall fights, you have very little initiative. Even if you get the wall, you're reliant on the opponent pushing in and taking the fight against you, which is a mistake against Toos. This man hits his shot. Don't try him. Make it 1, make it 2, make it 3. 3 key eliminations going down over Toos, Browner, and Co. going to feel very good about that in the space and materials they get. They couldn't afford to go down there. They wanted to keep their qualification hopes alive. Again, the Homonym Trio, another team that really wants to stay away from that. Meanwhile, Sturzix, Vettel, and iDrop is the team who is contesting for that #1 spot. They're right up there. They've been consistent wire for wire, and coming into this match, they were down 7 points to the top 2, who were tied at 171. So 171 was the lead coming through on the day. You can ignore that yellow number to the left. That's just the single day score. We'll keep you up to date on the cumulative.
And here it is. Storm Surge finally makes an appearance. They are 62 below. Everybody playing it slow. Everybody making those safe rotations, as you're pointing out. And this is where it's going to rear its nasty head. The Storm Surge does so much damage to the passive teams. And Sturix, Viddle, and iDrop are one of those passive teams. When you VOD review, you watch them closely. This is the puzzle that they always have to figure out in this situation. Where do we get our tags? They use the rifts very intelligently, and this is why they're so far into this rotation, because they were able to get to that rift coming out of Lazy Lake. But right now they're in danger as they're getting beamed from up high, and down goes Sturzix. Sturzix goes down. The 14-year-old coming from Playwell Esports is in trouble, and luckily he does have his squad right now playing hip to hip and saying, I got your back, brother. I'm going to go ahead and get the revive. But here it is, Sundown, game 12, and we have a finish that's involving Stark Industries POI.
And that's exactly what the players did not want to see. We talk about kind of those classic finishes and what's involved in those and what they need to add to the situation. Well, those rapid changes of verticality, those big mountains, those unterraformed lands, when you end up with kind of that concave surface that you can't catch yourself off of, it makes it that much harder. And if you rely on the zip lines, all these players are good enough to focus you. And right now, Sammy, Kajui, and Dennis trying to focus in on this fight. They are above the Storm Surge threshold, so the onus isn't really on them to be taking this, but they want the elimination points that come with it. They've had a great second day, and that snipe into the immediate swap was fantastic. Knowing that Storm Surge is in play right now, he's trying to close the gap and get one of those maximum finishes onto the player. He has both the pump and the snipe. He's looking to try and find the finish. They have it there. They're throwing him away. They should shake down and then put a snipe into this. A pump will be not awful, but okay, they get the 2 AR tags as well. Still not all the way over the top, but they've done enough damage to where it shouldn't be too much of a threat for them. The other team is going to look to disengage, and Browner saying, nope, we want no part of that anymore.
Man, Sundown, Browner and his Toos, that is the team that they need to stay on their feet because they're in 20th place. This team that they're fighting right now, Dennis' squad, they're already qualified right now. Yes, they're on the other side of the bubble. They're at 12th place right now, so they still have work to do. Sammy, Dennis, and Kuji have to do really well just to keep it going right now. But wow, they are going to go ahead and just shut the story of Toos and his trio at this moment right now. So this is not looking good. It is all up to Browner to get the job done because it's so scary right now. This is game 12. You worked so hard. You competed for hours here. This is essentially your third day. They've all been competing since Friday, essentially making it to the spot, going from opens, going to round round 2, Leslie had essentially a semifinals type vibe here, and now you're in round 3. Man, I just cannot believe that you're going to go down just a couple of points and risking it by changing up your POI. And that is why the full retreat is on, and that is why Browner is doing all that he can just to hold on for his trio. And it's not enough. He gets knocked. Luckily, there's one more up, but no, this is not looking good, Sundown. Not at all for Toos.
I mean, but the story of the day has been the Lone Ranger antics, and Toos takes the storm fight, says this is what we do best, pushes forward, gets the siphon when he needs it, gets the tag on the Kujui as well, getting some help over on the side. That's the second one he's going to convert on, and that was Nakors? Who was over there? Was that a secondary, I think? Unless I missaw that. Denis going down again there, and another siphon coming through, and all of a sudden, Toos making the plays he needed to make. He's getting some help over on the side. Kajui also going down. I'm not sure if Toos actually ended up getting the siphon. Would have needed to see if he took the damage there, but he's going to be the one walking away from it, at least for now. We're going to swing on board here to Benji, Lecce, and Savage, who are doing their best to tunnel in. You can see some excess mats coming out from them, so likely we're able to just pick up an elimination. Now they're going to use whatever they can to kind of dead side rotate into the zone. Nobody else is over there right now. We will see Toos fall in the elimination feed. Finally there to Will Powell going down in 21st. So some heroic efforts to get the last couple elimination points, but with so many placement points still on the table, 21 trios remaining, 59 players left. His odds of making that top 25 or top 15 are slim to none. Now hopping on board here, Mr. Savage, you can see nice little body shot snipe coming through. Will they be able to pick it up? They do get the down in the conversion right away. Bomb comes out. Can they close the gap and pick up the Dutch trio?
And this is going to be one of those endings that's going to be scary. We're not in the half and a half out yet. We're about to get there. We're in zone 4, but the zone 4 is half on Stark Industry, half off of it. And anytime in a competitive setting, it is Polar Peak 2.0. You're going to have to find a way to get out of it. And it is not like on a low elevation here. It is a high cliff right then and there. And considering that there's so many people like Benji Fishy, Mr. Savage, who are on that cusp, on the border of not qualifying, it's going to be a big-time fall from grace for them right now. And the question is, if they do not qualify, does this squad stick together for the remaining weeks? We all know that EU, they kind of solidify all that as Lecce picks up a big one. And Lecce is going to be that part of the trio, Sundown, that has a lot to prove. Already, Benji Savage, really well decorated. Lecce coming in as all those people have basically a lot of pressure on him to kind of pull through and compete at the same level as his decorated duo.
I mean, Lecce's been around the block a number of times. He's no stranger. I think he very much so belongs in this with this pairing in this trio. I think it makes a lot of sense for them. I think they just need to game plan a little bit stronger together, honestly. But right now, as we come down to the final moments, we're going to spend a lot of time focusing on that top left and seeing when we see full eliminations, when players go down, and the key names from the players who are in that top 4 and the top 5 and the ones who are on the bubble. As right now, we see that half in, half out zone, and it's about 95% on top of Stark, which, if anything, is okay. But if that next zone pulls down into the right, we're in for a whole bunch of fun. And I say that in a real sarcastic way. It is one of the roughest zones for the players. They're forced to use all of their utility just getting up kind of that sheer space. And that's why you see them right now getting so much priority on this outside southern part of the zone, because it's the easiest to rotate off of. And if you can establish a route back down, it should theoretically be the one place where players look to retake. And right now they're trying to secure some space over on the side.
And, you know, these are the things that the people that kind of land in Stark Industries, the Mitros, the Mongrels, they're going to have a strong advantage. As right now, a high team right now, a new star into the trio scene, Vettel, Steer 6, and iDrop lose Vettel right there, and the big-time beams from Benji. So the old guard is trying to hold on and not let the newcomers take the stage, but it's still Benji's, Lecce, and Savages are still in danger of not qualifying, so they got work to do in front of them. So I'm wondering, where is Mitro, where is Mongrel and Tayson? They have that ability to hold height.
And as much as I want to see these teams on the bubble, Thomas HD's team has been popping off in the elimination feed, and they're the ones trying to close the gap and push in towards the top. I want to see a perspective of where they are and what they're doing to try and get in towards the top. They were fourth coming into this, but they've been the ones who have had the most amount of eliminations. And now with Nate going down as well, 4ZR gets an elim onto Anto. We need to see if those get confirmed. Right now you have Lecce pushing forward, picking up ADN, and we're into our placement thresholds as well. So full trios going down now will signify a point going across. 2 points for every trio who is left in the lobby, and it's all going to come down to this, whether or not these trios end up in the top 15 and who's able to take away the top spot. 4ZR seems to have defended off the down on Nate for now, but so many of the top dogs are still in this lobby, and right now we have Savage in the bottom right, Lecce in the top right, both of them setting up bouncer plays as we see that full moving is staying on top of Stark, so avoiding the big drop off for now.
Yeah, and it is about to go down. Game 12 here. Placement points are doling out. Momentum is happening right now. Rotations are popping off. Elims are popping off in the feed. Mongrel, Anas picks up one. Nate goes down. iDrop goes down. So that is that trio completely out. A new star on a scene, like I mentioned, who was holding on to first place after day one. Hey, congratulations. You competed with some of the best, and at least you qualified in the top 15. But this story that we're watching right now is Lecce, Benji, Savage trying to do their best to get back into the top 15. After game 5, they were down by 20 points. So now it's the pedal to the metal. It is time, like Zeke said, do or get eliminated. And Lecce is putting on the eliminations right now with his backside control, being the fragger for Benji and Savage.
And he's the one who's patrolling the backside of the zone. You talked about it perfectly, but keep an eye on that top left as 4ZR is still up and on his feet. Cammy being taken over. That's a full elim coming out from Lecce, and a nice little bouncer combination, keeping the team mostly together. Lecce now up to 7 elims, 10 for the entire team as we close in the top 10. Really well done from them. 4ZR getting another elim right there. Savage also being able to clean it up. 4ZR getting the confirmation on there, but Savage closing the gap onto 4ZR. That'll be a full cleanup. Thomas HD still picking up eliminations in the feed. Anas finally going down as well. Thomas will finally be cleaned up going on there. You can see the rest of his trio going out there outside of that top 5. We have the Become Legends trio there, and right now, Mongo, Mitchell, and Tayson up on the high ground, but can Mr. Savage put the rest of the team on his back? Benji is still there with him. Uses the shockwave to get together. Uses a second shockwave to then just be ripped out of the sky from the high ground. Tayson sends his regard and says, good luck on the bubble. It's all down to Benji. He's in the bottom right, and you have Mitro in the top right trying to shut him down.
We have so many things developing. We have to become legends, trying to get the back-to-back, the first time done here on the grand stage right now. Mongrel, that answer has been answered. Where is he? He's at height right now, but the story is Benji. Can he clutch again? Who's able to clutch in the opens with 10 HP and a dream. Benji's ride can continue, or it could go down right now. On the outside, goes for a mega bounce. Does he get all the way to height? No, he gets very close to it. On your bottom right, Benji is cooking and going on all cylinders. But he's going up against the god tier squad right now, and Tayson is taking so much damage as this goes back up north, and now it's going to be a battle between Benji and Mongrel in his squad. Leo still holding out, but Benji gets eliminated as Mitro closes that door right now, and it is Leo all by himself. Mongrel, Mitro going toe-to-toe, the duo, and yes, getting the victory royale. Wow, what a way to close out this game 12, going to Mongrel, Mitro, Tayson. What a big-time finish, Sundown, and look at all the builds and all the chaos that unfolded with this desperation zone here. Finally, Stark Industries showing up and proving to be a monstrous ending.
And luckily for the players, we didn't go back and forth over on the side. Instead, it was a nice little riding the edge, and that 50-50 grind turned into a not so 50-50 as Mitro and Mongrel were able to dominate from the top down, turning in a 36-point performance. Ooh. But the question is, with everything at the end, what is the bubble at 15th? Was the effort from Benji and Savage enough to push through? And what happened at the top top. We saw a little bit of a Nas and Thomas HD picking up elims in the feed. We saw ForZR get a couple and sneak out those placement points, but in the end, we'll need to see what the final result is. That's enough from me and Sancho. Thank you so much. We're throwing it back over the desk. Shayo, Reese, Zeke, take us away.
Thank you guys so much. That wraps up EU, and I'm sure you guys have the biggest question. Which team walks away that number 1 spot? Secondary question, which one made it into the top 15? Let's take a look at the standings together. Now, Reese, I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't know how you did it. I don't know what you're doing or what you're on, but Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate are the overall winners, cumulative, for week number 1. If you didn't know this, Reese made the prediction they would come out on top. This happened yesterday. All we knew were the trios, and somehow, someway, they made it. Now, quick point of note here. Sancho did say Flick, Anas, and Thomas, so he's an extremely close second. But your winners are Kezix, 4ZR, and Nate.
And if you're not first, you're last in all of it. Just between us. All these players, still fantastic. Top 15 qualify all the way through. But just between the analysts and the casters team, that's definitely how I want to reflect that.
Okay, all right. We'll take it that way, I guess. I mean, from 6th to 10th, though, these guys are the ones that have qualified overall. Remember, it's the top 15 in Europe. So, we watched a little bit of Astro Mexi playing consistently. That consistency got them to 6th. Mongrel, Mitro, and Tayson winning off that game bumps them up straight to 7th. Very nice padding behind them. Advice surviving for one big game in game number 4 is they're at 8th. Past that, the 15th place team will be YZip and his trio. 99 points is what everyone needed in day number 1 plus day number 2. They qualify and just shut off everyone else from coming in.
And you see 13th, Sammy's team, a team that we were looking at in one of the earlier packages who's on the borderline of qualifying, ended up actually making that qualification spot. And what we didn't see, that paw from Benj in the endgame, what they actually needed was first place to pick up that qualification, and they actually ended up 6 points shy in 16th place, which is a real shame for them.
That's kind of like the number I feel like we've been seeing since yesterday, is to break into the top 15 is actually only a difference of 6 points. At the lowest, it's been like 5, sometimes maybe 4, but for the most part, it's been 6. So unfortunately, they did not qual here in week number 1, but they still have opportunities to do so. As I kind of mentioned before, we had some predictions, so let's just remind everybody. Shayo, didn't quite work out for you this week.
I picked the 50-50. Sometimes you guess heads, you get tails. Either way, I'm looking at the overall picture. When we're going to grand finals, might have the drop spot for Benji Savage and let you all figure it out. And in that case, I'll stick with the prediction. But until then, we'll see. They have serious points to qualify. Past that, we have Sancho and Sundown. Zeke can break that one down for a little minute.
That's right. I mean, Sancho started with Flick, Anas, and Thomas HD. And though they had a little bit of a mediocre start yesterday, today, they ramped up really, really well. Thomas clutching up an unbelievable victory out, puts them in 2nd place. So Sancho is right behind Reese. Sundown's team, Noah Riley, 200 only, who is Aqua, and Rezon. They did make it into the top 15, placing 14th, of course, breaking triple digits. Pretty impressive stuff. And Reese, asserting your dominance, the first time ever on official broadcast, making the prediction and coming out on top.
I'm happy, but I don't want to make it about me. Kezix and 4ZR and Nate played a phenomenal game. Sweaty Sands, every single game, uncontested, every single game. They played that to the absolute T. You have to capitalize on these situations. If you're landing a major POI, tons of loot there, without any other teammates there, you have to capitalize. And they did exactly that, and that's why I picked them.
This is the scary part of it, right? Is this contested versus uncontested.
Mm-hmm.
We've been hinting at it for the last 2 days, and that is what will carry us through the remaining of the weeks. Now, Fortnite fam, you're looking for more action. We have more after this long break. We'll be diving into NA East, where they have 6 games, and only 15 teams will push on through there as well. Till then, Fortnite fam, we'll see you guys on the Battle Bus. Stay tuned.
Beep, beep.